It's about to though. We're live.
Okay. All right. Welcome, one and all, to 11 Hours Apart, a ChiLynn podcast. His name is Chi, and I'm Leah. And this is a podcast that we like to talk about movies and TV shows and other forms of entertainment that we love. So please join us. Please like, share, and subscribe if you are liking what you're hearing. And leave us a comment if you have questions or feedback for us. We'd love to hear from you. So today is pretty straightforward. We're just going to talk about the, I guess, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show altogether, but the finale episode came out since the last time we had a podcast. So we're going to focus on the finale a little bit, but also talking about the show as a whole. So there will be spoilers galore for the entire Kenobi show and other Star Wars shows. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, I think that's all we had on the agenda to talk about today. I will mention really fast that the next episodes of season 4 of Stranger Things also came out like today, here in the US at least. I think it's 2 episodes maybe. I haven't watched them yet, but we talked about Stranger Things last time, I think, or maybe two podcast episodes ago. And I just wanted to throw that out there that that's very much on our radar as well. And maybe in the future we will discuss those episodes that just got released, but I haven't even watched them yet. Chi, I don't know if
I have
what
not.
you, yeah, okay,
Yeah, I have not. But we will talk about it very soon, I think, because I'm excited about the second part of the season 4.
yeah. So that's Stranger Things, but today is Kenobi show. I'm wearing my Star Wars sweatshirt in honor of this
That you got from
conversation
Etsy.
that I got off of Etsy. Shout
Link
out
down,
to
link down below. Link down below.
no, now I have to find the
No,
link.
this is not a paid promotion. We're not. This is just a joke.
I
But the
don't
show does look nice.
remember the name of the
Yeah,
shop, but yeah, I
yeah.
like it a
Well,
lot.
send us a message if you want to get your hands on some of those. We'll we'll send you the link.
Yes.
Disclaimer: neither of us did it. Like neither of us did the design the shirt. So yeah, this is
Yeah,
not
it's not our
a
shop.
promotional
No.
thing. Yeah, this is not our shirt. Just want to make that clear.
I was just telling Chi it's a new shirt that I got because I liked the design of
Very
it.
fitting. It's very fitting for today's discussion. Yeah,
It's probably
well done.
backwards, but yeah, it's
Well,
cool.
from my
It's
point of view,
comfy too.
it's actually not backwards.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, nice. On my end, it looks backwards,
Yeah.
but
Well,
okay.
what I'm wearing is
Oh,
Firefly.
uh-oh.
Oh,
With your
oh,
background's kind of messing it up.
I know. I guess so.
Oh,
Here it is.
what is it? Oh
It's
my
called
gosh.
It's called Firefly. It's an old like in the '90s TV show with Nathan Fillion, um,
Oh.
Morena Baccarin. Yeah, great show. Great
Uh-huh.
show.
Okay.
Made by now the infamous Joss Whedon.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah,
know him.
it's a great show. It's a great show.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I
So
don't
close,
know if
close.
I
Another great sci-fi series, not as
yeah.
iconic as Star Wars, but still pretty good.
No,
All right,
I'll
so
allow
we're
it.
dressed for the occasion. I think that's my point. We're both dressed for the occasion.
Yes. And yeah. Yeah, we're dressed for the occasion. We're ready to go. Okay. So, Kenobi season 1. That I guess there may be a second season.
It's
Also,
looking like, yeah.
yeah, it's kind of looking like it, but also I honestly like this is what happened with me. I watched the finale episode like on the day it came out as soon as I could that day, but
Yeah, I'm
I
here.
think it was after work still, but I watched it as soon as I could. And then I was watching the credits because I was like, maybe there's something after the credits. I had heard
Hmm.
rumors of there maybe being something. But since I finished the finale, I literally have not opened Disney Plus again. So if there's any sort of behind the scenes thing or any of that
No, 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 no,
posted,
no.
I
I
have
can tell
not
you,
seen it.
not officially. There might
Okay.
have. Well, there are maybe a couple of like short 4 or 5 minute videos about just some like side reels and like maybe like some like short interviews with some of the casts and all that, but there hasn't been an official sort of behind the scenes or the making of Obi-Wan Kenobi show at all. So yeah,
Okay.
you're not
Okay.
missing anything.
Okay.
Not yet.
I wasn't
Hmm.
sure if they had posted anything yet like
No,
that. Like the
not on Disney
gallery.
Plus. Not on Disney Plus at least.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen it, but I did see a little bit of behind the scenes footage of Reva and Darth Vader doing their fight that was in episode
5.
5. Yeah,
Yeah,
5. Which was really cool to see, actually, the behind the scenes. Like, it was
I haven't
really
seen that.
short video. It was just on YouTube. I found it, and it was just the two of them. And yeah, it was impressive to see. It really looked like they were actually like it looked like Darth Vader was using the Force, and Reva was like, reacting to it. Like, um, I don't know. It looked cool, but yeah, you have to look it up on YouTube. Like, I'm pretty sure it's a real video. Like, it had Moses Ingram was Reva. I don't know who was in the Darth Vader suit, but like, it looked awesome. I thought. Anyways,
It's probably
but
Hayden, right? Like, why wouldn't he be in there?
I don't know. I've heard it different. I will. Okay, wow. I am stumbling over my words tonight. I'm very excited to see if and when they do come out with more behind the scenes, because that is one thing I've been wondering. Because there were times that I thought it was Hayden in the suit, and now I'm like not so sure what to believe because I've heard things like whenever it's a full body shot of Vader, it's not Hayden, and it's only Hayden when it's like just a close
Oh,
up.
close up.
But
Oh, it could be.
I kind of thought like maybe it's Hayden when he's not moving that much, and then it's the double when Darth Vader is actually like fighting and stuff. Because what I know from Revenge of the Sith is Hayden had to stand, like he had to basically have like, I don't know what it was, but it was almost like he was standing on like platform shoes um in the suit, and he had to wear these extra like shoulder pads and stuff because he wasn't exactly tall enough and wide enough, big enough to be the right size for Darth Vader. So I imagine wearing those like lifters or whatever they are that they put that they cause him his height to be high enough. I feel like he can't really move around very well in that, like to do an actual like fight. But um so I kind of thought maybe it's the stunt doubles whenever Darth Vader is like actually fighting or like using the lightsaber, but it could have been Hayden during the Reva fight because Darth Vader doesn't do that much, right? He kind of just stands there and just moves his
Yeah,
hand and
yeah,
like stops her
exactly. Yeah,
lightsaber.
yeah.
So I kind of thought that that was Hayden, but I don't know for a fact, so I can't tell. So they did a good job of hiding, who it was until obviously in the finale episode we obviously
Hmm.
get the
Hmm.
actual glimpse of
Yeah,
Hayden.
I think
So
whenever we get to see his face,
yeah.
whenever Vader shows part of his face, then
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I mean that's
that's
Hayden, no,
always Hayden over
sure.
there.
But
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it doesn't make that much difference because like when Vader is wearing his full armor and helmet, there's not much for the actor to do. Whoever is in the suit, I don't think it matters very much because the voice is not Hayden's voice, right? It's like a synthetic James Earl
Hmm.
Jones's voice. And then
Hmm.
if Vader is doing some sort of fighting
Hmm.
thing, then it really doesn't matter if it's Hayden who's doing it. So I don't really see. I mean, it would be nice if it was him the whole time because like that means he's more more part of this. But honestly, I don't think it
Well,
would be.
we know that they had other people in the suit. Like this is a thing
No, no,
where
for sure, yeah,
like
yeah.
because we
I
saw
don't think
the
it's gonna be him
picture.
like the whole time, but
You
yeah, I'm just saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did you see the picture of like the two like big men that like are the stunt doubles, or I don't know what you call them, like the other
No,
people
no, no.
that play in the suit for this show? It was for this show specifically. So there are two
Oh,
guys.
no, I have not seen the picture.
Yeah, there's like a photo floating around out there, and I think it's two guys, and then there's also um
A stunt
I don't
woman.
a woman who I think helped with all the I don't know what she did exactly, but she helped coordinate the whole Vader image, I think. Like there was a whole team of people that
Mm.
uh I'm trying to look it up right now, so sorry if I'm picture men. I don't know what to search for. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you just type in Google, like I
Vader
typed
stunt
in
double.
Vader Kenobi stuntmen or picture stuntmen is what and it's like this woman, this little female, and
Oh
then
yeah,
two
okay.
men in the suit.
Oh yeah, and
And
there's a woman also like wearing some sort of Yeah,
black.
is the picture you're looking at like two men like sitting on a stool or something, and both in Vader
Yes.
armor, and then
Yes.
there's the woman staying in the in between
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah, if you go to Star Wars Newsnet, there's a whole article called Darth Vader
Oh, about
Details
that.
on the 5-person team that brought the Sith Lord back to life for
Oh,
Obi-Wan
okay.
Kenobi.
All right,
So, yeah.
I'll give it a read. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It was like
Oh,
and
movement.
they
Okay, so the movement coach. I think that's what
movement. That's right.
the woman's job is. The movement coach.
Yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out, sorry, it's a little laggy. I was trying to remember what she does, but that's right. She's the movement coach because they have to be basically coached on how to move in the suit so that they like can look like they're moving like
Hmm.
naturally on screen, but also they're not tripping and falling over themselves, and they're able to do all the fight choreography in the
Yeah,
suit.
and
Like,
I think also just that their movement match. So you don't
mhm.
recognize they're actually two different people walking in the armor because we all walk in different ways. And Vader has a
Well,
very specific way of walking. I
you're
think it's
so
part of
right.
it's choreography, but
Yeah.
maybe it's like specifically about just moving around instead of
Yeah,
fighting. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. And I think it's so
that's
that
cool.
also his movements look like it looks like Vader, it looks like the way
Hmm.
Vader was in the originals and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they
I mean,
did a
there are
great
like
job.
other movies that whenever I saw the video once about like running, like whenever you see like anybody sprinting in the movie, yeah, they have to be coached, not for running fast, but running like uh uh like presentable on screen, because like we normal people when we run, we don't look pretty at all. It's actually not very it look kind of ridiculous, and they have to like be coached about how to run. Well,
Well,
I know you
they
have
could have
something,
used a
some statement.
coach of coaching people how to run, little kids how to run. But I was a runner, so I still feel like I notice a lot when if it's somebody that's running in a movie and they have bad form, it's just like I can't stand it. It like really bothers me. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's just like what bothers me about it is when they're trying to sell to the audience that like this person is running really fast, but then they look that the form is off. Like then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I'm not buying it anymore. It's like
Yeah,
they're not
yeah.
actually running fast because they suck. They're not good at running. So I was about to say they suck at running, and then I thought that sounds kind of harsh. So I'll temper it
Yeah.
back a bit. But anyways, that's beside the point.
Yeah,
But
tune it down a little bit.
yeah,
Jeez.
Well, it's funny that you say that because it's like if they have a whole freaking coach there and they still look like that on screen. And I'm not saying it's every actor. It's definitely not. Like there's some actors that pull it off, like they know how to run. They look like they're running fast. They have good athleticism about them as they're running. And then there's others that just like I'm just like cringing at the screen because I'm just like, oh gosh, it's like you're supposed to be this action hero and you can't, and you're not even running properly. Like, I don't know. I mean, but we all have like quirks about how we run or how we walk, and that's fine. That's normal. But it like stands out a lot when it's like really bad. And then the character is being sold to you as someone who is like really fast or really athletic, and then it's like no, they don't look like
Yeah.
it, so I can't buy into that anymore. Because it's like you learn how they teach these actors like, so they go into boot camps on how to learn how to sword fight or how to do karate or whatever it is that they're doing, but then they don't teach them, it seems like sometimes they don't teach them how to just run and look like you're actually running fast, like with good form, even if you're not running that fast. But anyways, that is totally beside the point. That was a tangent, but yeah, I will say I'm very pleased and impressed with that 5-person team, according to that article, that brought Darth Vader to life for this show, because I think they did an excellent job. Everyone involved in that, like from the director to Hayden to this movement coordinator, like I feel like they nailed it. And maybe I'm not as big of a Darth Vader like nerd as some people, because I think some people like know everything about his suit and like exactly like the changes that they've made over the years of how his helmet is and all this stuff. I don't know all those details, but for me, I loved like all of the scenes Darth Vader was in. I thought he sounded good. I thought he looked good. I liked, in most cases, how he was portrayed, with a couple of exceptions. But for the most part, I think he brought the show up like a massive notch. Like if he wasn't in the show, it would have been bad. It would have been really bad. So
I
I'm
agree.
glad that he was in there.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah.
Did you how did you feel, Chi, about the finale episode? Like just looking at just that episode, like what were your thoughts right after you finished watching, if you can remember?
I loved it. I actually loved it very, very much. And I thought, the funny thing is, I this is probably not how it actually was worked out, but I feel like it was almost as if they shot the previous episode so they can shoot the finale. Like they have those like those jam moments planned out, and then work backwards from there. I know it's probably not, it didn't happen this way, but it was like, because we had a lot of, myself and you and a lot of you had a lot of doubts about how like certain characters are, how they acted, and some of the story elements, and I think I wouldn't say that the finale justifies or sort of or explains every single thing that's there. That might be questionable for like some hardcore, you know, fans out there. But I think for me at least, it was enough for me to overlook all the other potential problems and sort of minor conflicts about with the canon, and even like the whole existence of the show. Like, the finale was good enough for that. I would yeah, like I was very happy about the finale. And because I just rewatched the first 2 episodes last night, I have to say some of the things that I found a little like I wasn't quite sure, or I wasn't quite sold on the first time around, actually made more sense. For example, Riva. Like I didn't know what her deal was. Like why is she so aggressive? And I thought, okay, well, before we knew what was going on with her, she just appeared to me like a power hungry inquisitor and try to climb up the ladder. And for me, that's okay. I can understand that, but that's not very appealing to me. Like that seems to me a little like, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, we talked about well, how the hell did she know that Anakin and Vader were one and the same person?
Yeah.
Like we didn't like there was no
Mm-hmm.
we were guessing, but then we're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, could they have? I mean, we thought, okay, well, maybe they were just being sloppy. Even though I doubted that, because because I remember seeing a video where Deborah Chow, the director, specifically said they really want to respect the canon. So I didn't think they were being sloppy, but I was waiting to see how they're going to make sense of all this. And now we know what Riva was about, her backstory, her personal anger, like toward the Jedi, suddenly makes a lot of sense. Like when she was there on Tatooine, like trying to, you know, pressure people about giving up the Jedi, this like fugitive Jedi information. She said something like, "Oh, Jedi's are cowards. They wouldn't save you." And back then it was just like, okay, well, she was just on the rent because she hated Jedi because she's an Inquisitor because she was on the dark side. But now with this, information about her past, I have to say those lines, I mean, those lines just like those lines are in a different light now that I
Mm.
really appreciate. So I think that knowing the whole story again really enhanced my experience the second time around, at least for
Mm.
the two first episodes. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
See, oh, go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. You can finish your thoughts. I didn't
Oh, I
mean
was
to.
just well, but it's going to be on a different thing. So why don't you just share your thoughts on that particular thing, and then maybe I'll
Yeah. Yeah, regarding Riva's arc, I mean, I don't really want to spend too much time talking about that either because it is, but this is part of what bothers me about it is supposed to be the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and yet the show began with Riva in that Order 66 scene, and it is primarily almost seems to be her arc. But Obi-Wan has a very significant arc too, so I'm not saying
mm,
that. But like
yeah. I also
her
I also have
arc
the
is
same I also have the
second.
same problem, but
Yeah.
not the character arc. I think that the fact that she is
Yeah.
her arc, like the character of Riva existed at all in the show. I think I believe it's a compromise. So I think Deborah Chow said at first she planned to be, for this to be like a movie trilogy. So I think if with this current format, which is like 6 episodes, about maybe 40 minutes, 50 minutes each, I think it would be better off if Riva doesn't exist. Like you just don't have that, sort of character and this
Yeah. Not in it's
this
almost like
part at
not
all.
in this show. Yeah, it's like fine
Yeah,
that she's a character and it's a cool
I
story,
think
but
she's a
it's like
great. I think
why
she's a
in this
great
show?
character. I think there's because we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen somebody. I mean, the closest we have is Ahsoka, right? Like who was actually in the Jedi way, but then decided, okay, I'm actually not. I don't want to subscribe to this anymore. So she becomes an independent sort of fighter. Riva is like different. She started out as a on the light side, and then she joined the dark side because she wants to get revenge on Vader. I think that arc, and then realize, okay, well, she, at the end, she couldn't really, give in all the way to the dark side because she couldn't kill Luke, right? She couldn't do it. She couldn't bring herself to do it. I think that is an interesting story, but I would say keep that. If what we have is an 8 episode or 10 episode show, then you have all the time you have to develop her arc and then also tell a full uncompromised Kenobi story. Right now, what the show has is, the Riva. storyline. They're in there, but I feel like it was not fully explored or developed. So
They
I
could
was
have
left with a
gone a
little like,
different
well,
way with it, I think. Like they could have done it where, I mean, there are just different ways they could have done her arc, I suppose, because they could have done it where I mean, see, for me, what you were saying of like going back and rewatching the first two episodes and some of these things that Riva was saying and doing, like suddenly like make more sense, or in light of what we find out about her character later on. That's cool. That's really cool. And that is, I think, what the purpose was of that reveal in episode 5 of her history and her motivation. But see, I felt like that was foreshadowed almost too much for me, where I already
mhm,
basically from the moment of that Order 66 scene, and then also I think from the knowledge of knowing that Moses Ingram like went on the full, like she was doing all the promotional stuff with Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, so I knew she was going to be a big part of the show. So the fact that it opened up with that Order 66 scene, there were these younglings there. There's one that kind of looks like she could be a young Reva. It's like, this is what her story is going to be. So it's like I almost like already had that in mind the whole time. So all of the things, like even when she sees the Jedi symbol on the wall, on that like cave wall or whatever, on the path, and she gets angry at it, and she like I can't remember, she sees the Jedi symbol, and then she like pushes some stuff off a table, and she like gets angry. She's very mad. At first she looks at it, she almost looks like she's sad, and then she gets mad. And I was like, yes, she feels like, even when I saw that the first time, I was like, I think she's mad because she feels like the Jedi betrayed her in some way, because she was a victim of Order 66, or all of her master, her friends or whatever were killed during Order 66, and she feels like the Jedi didn't protect her, that they weren't there for her after, that maybe and then the fact that she knew about Anakin Skywalker's name, like, and that he was Darth Vader. I was like, she must have seen something in the temple. I didn't know what. I really hated how they ended up doing it, where basically I think it would have been way better if they had her like hiding secretly and like seeing from a secret location what was going down, and seeing Anakin from that location. Um, but instead, they literally have her stabbed through her body with a lightsaber as a child, a young child, where your body's a lot smaller, so a lightsaber going through is going to do a lot more damage, and survive that once, and then she survives it again. And it just, I didn't even like that they did that with the Grand Inquisitor, but I guess the Grand Inquisitor, being an alien species, they have more than one stomach. So it's like, oh, he just got stabbed in one stomach, he still has another stomach. Well,
yeah.
Reva, as far as we know, is a human species and does not have multiple stomachs. And if she does have multiple stomachs or multiple hearts, that's lame, because we already did that earlier in the show with a different character. So you can't do it again story-wise, in my opinion, with another character where it's like, oh, she's actually an alien species that has multiple hearts, so that's how she survived the stabbing. It's like, no, 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 no. You can barely do that one time, let alone 2 times in the same show. So it's like, that can't be the reason. I think she's a human. We have no reason to believe anything otherwise. I think it could be something where it's like, the first time she was stabbed, she somehow was healed because the freaking sequels had to introduce force healing, which I still think is dumb, but I guess it's a thing now. But some people, I think I heard that there is a theory out there that what if it was Grogu that healed her? And like she was stabbed and Grogu found her and healed her or something. And that could be cool. I could get into that if that was what happened. If somehow there was some linkage between Reva and Grogu at the temple, like they help save each
Yeah,
other
yeah,
somehow. That would be
yeah, yeah. No,
cool.
no, I mean, I think the stabbing. Yeah, I do think. Yeah, I think that was my.
Isn't that
Yeah,
ridiculous?
I think that is one of my sort of real criticisms about the series. There are a few of those like inconvenient,
A
non
few. Every
non.
episode has it. I feel like
No,
there's
no, no. But
way
like,
too
if you
many of
count them,
those
I mean,
in this
it's not that we
show.
had like 10 of them, but like, yeah, like for
Yeah.
example, like, yeah, Riva wasn't killed on the spot as a youngling. The Grey Inquisitor wasn't killed. What, and then Riva again didn't die when like Vader stabbed him through the body, and then Obi-Wan decided not to kill Vader again. All that. Yes, I do
I
think.
didn't. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they took quite a few liberties of not letting people die.
Yes.
I also heard a rumor about like I think at the beginning Riva was to be killed off. Actually, I think at some
She
point
should
they
have been.
changed that. But
I don't know what their
but
problem
to the
is with
point but to the
these
point of, well,
characters.
Chris, I think it's I think they saw this like potential of this character, and then maybe they can go further with her, whatever. Um, but to the point of not dying by a lightsaber wound, I don't know. I think in this sci-fi, for me, I think it's what bothers me is that it's just very convenient.
Yes.
But just the fact that somebody does not die after being stabbed by a lightsaber, I'm actually fine with that, because there are a lot of like, well, think about how Padme died. She was like too she was sad. She died out of sadness. Like,
Yeah. But see,
I think.
a lot of people hated that at the time, and it still
No, no,
is
no,
kind of,
I didn't hate
it's a
it. I think that
mystery.
I think it's fine. Like, I also didn't have a problem with that. I think it's just that you
It's
have
not
to.
because she's sad. She lost the will to live. That's the exact line. She just seems to have
Right.
lost the will to live. And
Right,
there
right, right.
is
But the
something
reason.
about the will to live with this stuff, because apparently the reason that they're giving in this show is that it's like rage and revenge keeps you alive when you're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
dying. And it's like, that,
Exactly.
what kind of message is that? Like, what the F is that supposed to even mean? And it's like, I understand if they're saying, like, so for instance with Qui-Gon, it's like he was ready to surrender his will to that of the Force. Like, that's part of learning to be one with the Force, is you have to learn how to surrender your will to the Force's will. And when you are in the dark side, you are opposed to that. You're not surrendering your will to anything else. You're trying to bend the Force to your own advantage. So you like are more, and there I think that this a similar explanation was maybe used for Darth Maul in the Clone Wars, which
Yeah,
again,
I was gonna bring it up. Yeah. No,
I don't
okay,
even like that that much.
I know, but my point really is that I think, yeah, we can debate about what kind of wound that person would sustain after being stabbed by lightsaber that way, and whether on the regular human, if that's even sensible. But like, we're in a sci-fi show, right? So like, I think I'm okay to suspend my disbelief that, okay, well, there has been precedent about, well, if you are force sensitive, then maybe your body's stronger, after being stabbed to serve any sort of wound, right? So I'm okay with that. But just the fact that, why didn't he like chop Riva's head off? Like, that
I
that is
I
that
heard
is what I have
so many
more that
people
is what I
say
have
that.
more problem is, like, well, why did he decide to let her, to not just kill her on the spot 100% right away, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
or
Well,
why did
and
Obi-Wan not just chop Vader's head off on that spot right away?
honestly, the
I think
Obi-Wan
those
thing
are the
bothers
things.
me a lot less, because the Obi-Wan thing does bother me. But the Obi-Wan thing, it's like you could make the argument of like Obi-Wan just he's, even though he says out loud, he says like then my friend is gone,
It's
or
truly
whatever
dead.
he says.
It's
He's
truly dead.
truly dead. He says it out loud, but people say things all the time that they don't really believe deep down. So you could make the argument that Obi-Wan says that, but he actually is still inside holding on to the fact that maybe Anakin is still in there and he can't bring himself to kill him. Whatever. But like, I totally agree with you that in that. And I will say I can suspend my disbelief a little bit. But this is the issue with this show that this show has for me, is that it's asking us to suspend our disbelief too much. It's like I can do it once, but you have it with the Grand Inquisitor, and then my disbelief is used up a little bit. And then you ask me to suspend my disbelief again when you show that it seems as if Reva was stabbed by Anakin as a youngling with a lightsaber and survives that, and then a second time. Like, that's the thing that bothers me. Is like, why did they have to have it where she was stabbed as a child? Couldn't they have had her hiding
Wait, but
somewhere where
don't you?
Anakin
But
didn't even
wasn't?
see her?
But I thought Vader, like Anakin, meant to let her survive though, because like he said something about
No.
don't you no, but he said like don't you really don't like he said something like do you really believe that I didn't know, like it was you, youngling, or something, like he it was my
I
impression
think
was
okay.
that he knew he Anakin at the time was aware that that stab didn't kill the youngling.
Oh, my impression was Anakin at that time thought that he had slaughtered them all. But
Uh-huh.
Darth Vader later on, Reva becomes an inquisitor or whatever, and he is able to tell later on, like, oh, she was
Oh,
a
that was the youngling that I thought I killed.
yeah, or she was a youngling in the temple,
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay,
he
that would
could
make sense.
he could
That would
maybe
make sense.
sense through the force like some of
It was
what
oh yeah,
she's
that was the
feeling.
youngling that I stabbed at a temple, and but I guess she didn't
I
die. That's okay. I'll let her live because
yeah,
she's gonna serve me like a
yes,
good, yeah. She's gonna
yeah.
be of service to me, so I'll allow that. I'll just pretend that I didn't know, right?
That's
Okay,
what
okay,
I
that
thought.
works. That
Because
works.
I
Yeah,
think
that totally works.
Anakin, I mean, it could be either way, but I choose to believe, or I'm believing what I what I just said because I
I
don't.
just well, okay. I guess for me, it just seemed impossible that I mean, he can if he didn't kill on the spot, like he would surely know. Like
Well, the only thing is he was go having to go through the temple. My only thought there is that
oh,
he
like
was
very
having to go
quickly.
through the temple so quickly. She
Mm,
said that she played dead, which she should have actually been dead if she was actually stabbed, but whatever. She played dead, and so I think he was just going through like killing
yeah,
Jedi,
yeah,
and
yeah. Mhm.
unfortunately, we don't like to think about it, but younglings, and I think he was just swiping through, like not really paying much mind. Like that's his big, that is a classic villain weakness, right? Where they are so they overlook things because they're so sure of themselves or overconfident, or they're just like they're so self-centered that they become like narrow-minded. They can't see beyond. So it's like he just assumed that he killed her probably, and that's what I thought, or that's how I interpreted it. But I think the show doesn't really give evidence one way or the other. So you could interpret it your way,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
I
mhm. Yeah.
always had this understanding that at that point during Order 66, Anakin was so far gone and committed. Like there was nothing that was going to stop him from carrying out that order. Like he it was just it was foreshadowed by in Attack of the Clones with the I killed all of them, the women and the children too. When he kills the Tusken Raiders, it's the exact same thing. He gets in this rage where he like loses all control. He has no sympathy anymore, and he just slaughters everyone. He doesn't care if it's women, children, whatever. Like, and that's what I feel like that was the foreshadowing of Order 66. And so I think he was in the same mindset during Order 66. So why would he spare anyone?
Sure.
And so
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
That's what I always thought. So that's what I'm keeping with. And I'm thinking that Darth Vader later on, when Reva comes into his service, he is able to put the puzzle pieces together of he's able to figure her out. Basically, he knows she's motivated for some reason. She really wants to be Grand Inquisitor. When he says to her in this show, he says, I know what you want. I think he actually means he knows she wants to kill him. But she thinks he means, because he follows it up with, you want to be Grand Inquisitor. But he's tricking her at that point. He's just leading her on because he wants to use her. And I did think that was like a really good twist to this show that I really appreciated.
I agree. Yeah. So I think we started off on this. I mean, for me, I can only speak for myself. Yes, there are, this show is not perfect at all. And there are, like the places we just talked about, quite a few convenience instances where, this thing can only happen this way so that the plot can move along, right? Yes. But I think overall, I'm willing to, I think this show, the good things about this show like far outweighs those problematic parts. I think overall I really, really enjoy the show, especially how Kenobi gradually changed, not just in terms of his fighting ability, but just how his mindset and him as a person changed throughout the 6-episode journey. And then it didn't, at no point I feel like it was rushed, or it didn't make sense, or I never questioned like, well, how did he suddenly get from point A to point B? I mean like, mentally, or like I never felt, everything felt very, very natural. And the other thing, which I think some people, this is not a consensus, because I think some people actually think otherwise, but I really like the fact that they put in this, they let him to have a history with Leia. Like, it's not that they just she had not met him, in the original trilogy, when she first heard his name. I actually appreciate the fact that they actually went on this venture together, because I really love the moment in the finale when he told her how she was like her father and her mother. I thought that was such a great moment. And again, making the decision to let Kenobi and Leia have this history, yes, that might sort of violates the canon in some way if you are really strict about this thing. But I'm okay with it. I think what I get out of it was far more than what I think is the sort of more trivial potential contradictions to the canon. So yeah, I think overall I really like the show. That's my overall thought.
Well, good, Chi. I'm glad that you enjoyed it that much. I think I also would say that this show is good, but I feel like where I'm sitting is like I wanted it to be great, and there were great moments, but I'm not sure if I would say for me that I felt like this show as a whole was great. I honestly don't think, well, it's really hard to say because these are characters that I love very, very much. So it's like the characters almost like make up for it. But I was like, I almost feel like I would say that The Mandalorian was better than this show.
Yeah. I think, yes, I think Middle is a better show, for sure.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's like just
I
such a
think yeah,
shame because I think that this show could have been up there with The Mandalorian. I'm not saying it would have necessarily been better than The Mandalorian, but I feel like this show should have been more on par with Mandalorian season 1 and 2. And it perplexes
yeah,
me a little bit of how it's not but maybe that's just because I think so highly of these characters that I had very, very high expectations.
yeah.
But
I think the reason one is I think one of the reasons is the format, which I think we probably can't fault the creators too much. Is that if they are, because I do think this show is working with a lot more constraints than the Mandalorians. Like they were given. I'm I'm pretty sure it wasn't the direct decision to okay, we're going to tell this in a 6 episode story. Each of them is like 40 50 minutes. Because she had a different idea, obviously, and then she had to like I'm borrowing somebody else's like words, but they have to like dot like try to not get wet, try to like walk between the raindrops of the uh of the New Hope and what Revenge of the Sith.
yeah,
Yeah, like they really have to like work in the confinement of okay, we'll you know so it's not like it's not as much of a free space to create stuff.
yeah.
Not to say this is the best story anyone can ever create given those constraints, right? But
Well, I
I
agree
think
with you. The thing that's frustrating about it for me is like, yes, I think it was like Deborah Chow herself said, like, the difference between working on Mandalorian and working on this show is we're dealing with these legacy characters in Obi-Wan Kenobi that weren't there in The Mandalorian as much. And so with The Mandalorian, they did have a lot more freedom of what they could do. They weren't tampering with so much canon all the time. Like they weren't dealing with these legacy characters that people have expectations for. So it was like a lot more freedom on Mandalorian, which I think worked really well with the team that made those shows. Obviously knew what they were doing, and I am a full-fledged like fan of that show. But Kenobi has these constraints, and that's fine. I understand that that's a challenge and that there's a lot of canon that you have to work around. But the thing that's still so frustrating to me is not so much like that they had it's that there's so many instances in the writing of this show, and I honestly would say editing too. Like there were some weird editing moments that I don't know what was going on, but I feel like they edited out like fairly like crucial pieces of information like from some of the characters that I would have liked to see more of, because then the character would have meant more to us and we would have cared more about them as a character. Like especially Ice Cube's son, Revan. Is it what's his name? I forgot what it. Not
Reckon,
Revan.
Roken,
Roken.
Roken.
Um, Roken. Like I would have liked to see more of that character. I even would have liked to see more of the Game of Thrones lady's character, Tila or Tella, Tiva. I don't know. I forgot her name.
The insurgent, like the who blew herself up at the end.
Yeah, yeah, like her
Oh
blowing
yeah,
herself up thing, like that's
yeah.
that's reminiscent of other things we've seen in the past, even in Star Wars, like in The Mandalorian. Okay, Star Wars fans, like don't kill me, but I forgot the name of that droid that blows himself up or he self-destructs to
Oh
save
yeah,
them.
in Mandalorian. Yeah, okay, I know which
What's
one you're
his
talking about.
name? Like
Yeah, I forgot.
IG 88 something. I don't know.
Something. Yeah.
I forgot his name, but that was a great moment in Mandalorian. But see, we had moments with that character throughout the show in Mandalorian. I'm talking about with that droid, even more so than I feel like they were able to quite do with Game of Thrones lady's character in because they did give us moments with her, but something about it, like when it finally came time for her to sacrifice herself, it like wasn't quite there for me. And maybe it's because it was like I've already seen that before, but like I still thought like she was a great character in some ways, but they could have done that character a bit better. I thought it was just like these moments in the writing that like perplexed me as to why it wasn't better. It's not that they broke canon in a couple instances or opened up plot holes quite a bit, as much as it's just like there's these perplexing things with the writing that I'm just like, what? It would have been so easy to not do that, or to not write it that way. Like I don't understand why, but there had to have been reasons for why, and I know that there was probably more to the story that didn't make it onto the screen. So that's why I'm going to be very interested about the behind the
I
scenes. But like
think, yeah,
Roken takes it,
Roken, yeah.
makes that I thought it was weird when I saw this. I was like, did I miss something? Like the first time I watched that episode where he's having he meets Obi-Wan and they're like, "Can you help us?" And he's like, "No, I won't help you." And then it's like all of a sudden in this weird way with the editing, he like flips into being like, "Well, my wife, she was force sensitive and she was killed by the Empire, so I know. I guess I will help you." But it was like very sudden in like a very awkward way that it made me think that they edited something out. There's a couple moments
Mm,
like that with Riva too, where I feel like they edited something out of her story that like I think, well, I don't know what was there, maybe was worse, but I would have liked to see more because there
yeah,
were just
it's interesting
explanations that I could have
because I
used.
didn't I remember those, but I didn't feel that way at all. I don't know why. Yeah, I didn't feel those were awkward or sudden. I don't know. But I do agree with you on one part, which is I think going back to the problem, which I think is because they have to have a Riva arc in there. So they basically have to. So imagine if Riva is just an Inquisitor. There's no, she like that could have make space for more moments with characters like Roken or the Game of Thrones lady or Haja.
Yeah.
Haja, I thought that was the
Oh,
another like
the
like underexploited one. Like it was just like he was basically like a scammer, even though he was helping people. But then I feel like Obi-Wan decided like to trust him. That was a little like uh not
I would
again
have
it
trusted
it, it,
Roken before
it
him,
wasn't
or
right,
literally
right,
anyone
yes,
else.
I agree, yes, but it wasn't so bad it would that it took me out of the story at like altogether. No, but it was like, well, I would have it would have been better if we got to spend more time with the character and understand uh maybe he was scaring people for some other reasons, instead of just being like a sewer rat, or just being like
Well, I think they make him out to be like he is a scammer, but his heart's in the right place. Like he actually
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
want to
yeah,
be bad.
yes,
He
yes,
was just
yes, yes.
on that rough like
He
city
needs
planet,
money,
and
and yeah, but
yeah.
I just like that. I mean, that one I feel like would have been like could have been developed more. Roken, I think, I wonder if mostly just because he was played by a famous actor, right? Like I wonder if he was
Not that
just some.
famous of an actor. He was in
No,
I'm
no,
only aware of him in Straight Outta Compton.
right, but like no, no, I'm not. Yeah, not just you, but like I wonder if. But he's a recognizable face, right? He's not like a fully totally unknown, just somebody. Um, maybe that is also part of the reason why we wanted to have more of him, because like he.
Well, yeah, except for that, I mean, honestly, I only, part of me personally that would have liked to see a little bit more with his character, I guess is because I know that the actor that plays him, Ice Cube's son, is a big Star Wars fan. So I'd like to see him like get a good role in Star Wars. And instead, it seems like, at least with the version of the character that we saw on screen, it's a pretty
Mm-hmm.
boring character, to be quite honest. I mean, I think the
Mm-hmm.
story
Yeah.
is cool that like his wife, or his whoever his I think he said it was his wife, was force sensitive and was snatched up by the Empire. Like, that's really fascinating. But we only got this weird, awkward, like, story from him about that one time, and then it didn't come up again. And then at the end, in the final episode, they're saying something about him being like, this is only the beginning for him or whatever. But it's like, why do we even care about his character that much? We've barely seen him on screen. And I mean, he was there in the in the
Yeah, yeah,
cargo
yeah, yeah.
ship
Yeah.
when they were
He's basically,
escaping.
yeah, he's basically a cameo. Like he wasn't, yeah, his
Yeah,
character wasn't
yeah,
that interesting.
yeah.
But okay, but
The
okay,
guy
so
who
the writing,
the scammer guy, I
yeah.
thought he was just going to be a cameo in the one episode, and then he popped back up later, and I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting to see him again. and
Yeah,
and
no, but I
he's
think
one
that
that
still
I'd be
counts.
okay if it
I
was
think that
just.
still counts as cameo. Like I think what's his name? What's the actor's name?
Yeah,
Uh
I don't remember his name, but isn't he in like other?
oh,
Is he
Kumail
in Marvel?
Nanjiani. Kumail Nanjiani. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he is still a cameo, even though he has like more screen time than like Roken. He's still a cameo, and again, like he is. We still don't know much about him. He was just there to like move the plot
Yeah,
along, and
yeah,
you
and
know,
that's fine. It's like they did
that's
that in
fine. Yeah,
Mandalorian.
I think that's okay. Yes, it would have been, like I said, I would totally trade Riva with any of those characters, have more time with them, but and less Riva, because I do think it's this is not a perfect, given this
Hmm.
format. I would rather them not
Hmm.
having this whole Riva thing, because that's,
I agree.
again, if you don't develop that to the full extent, then you're actually, I think Riva is like a shortchanged character, really. Like she is like so like shortchanged. But
Well, I think they could have made
I
her
think
character like so much more tragic too if they had revealed to us at the very beginning that her motivation was really, like, if they revealed her motivation to us in the first couple episodes, and then they had us kind of follow her as from the
yeah,
Inquisitor's perspective, but then she would be a lesser, she would take up less screen time than what she did, because really her main point should have been in the show, I think, is just to be like the badass like third sister Inquisitor. And you can
yeah,
have a badass Inquisitor without them taking up much screen time. I mean, Darth
yes,
Vader, for Christ's sakes, took up like 8 minutes of screen time in the original Star Wars movie, and that was it.
hmm,
And so
yeah,
it's like, if you can have the most iconic villain of all time take up 8 minutes total of screen time in a feature film, then I think you can have an Inquisitor take up a little bit less
yeah,
screen time.
yeah,
And
yeah. I
so they
agree.
could have
I
done
agree.
that,
Yeah.
but they could have had us kind of like sympathizing with her on the way, because like we know her motivations, but we see the conflict in her where she's feeling torn, like she has to pretend to be this evil character that she doesn't really feel like she is on the inside, because she's trying to actually just get close to Darth Vader. And then at the end, Darth Vader, she ends up dying at Darth Vader's hands, but attempting to carry out, what she intended to do. That's what I would have done with the character. Is like, I would have had her have this like tragic but meaningful death where, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
we it gives us a little bit of insight into who the Inquisitors are. Like, we learn through her about the other Inquisitors too, and we get to see Darth Vader a few times through her eyes or whatever, and that would have been awesome. That's how I would have done it, but
Yeah,
that's not
I
what
would
they
too.
did.
I would too. I would just, I
Yeah.
think Riva would be better off just, if she had died by Vader's hand at the end
Yes.
of episode 5,
It would have just
for
been more
sure.
meaningful than
Yeah, yeah.
whatever
I
this
think.
thing was with Luke. Because here's the thing that really, this bothers me big time. And maybe, Chi, since you went back and rewatched things, you caught something that I didn't catch. So,
Hmm.
what I can't figure out is what was Reva's reasoning for wanting to kill Luke?
To revenge on Vader.
How does she know Luke is Darth Vader's son? Based
She
on what
didn't
was
know.
in this show.
I think she didn't know exactly that, but I think because in the but I think she somehow knew that that was important for Vader. That kid means something to Vader.
How? How does she know that? She knows is that it's important to Kenobi on some level and to Bail
No, no, but like
Organa
the broken message, like I think Bale says something like,
and
"Oh,
Owen.
if he finds out about the kid or something like that."
If he
Remember,
finds
like
out about the boy,
the
so
boy,
was
yeah,
it?
yeah, like the Bale sent open message saying that, "Well, well, if you are not responding, I'm going there," because it would be, I forgot the exact words, but he said like, "Well, it would be like, but it would be terrible if he finds out about the boy or something like that, right?" So I think I think it wouldn't. I didn't think Riva was certain that Luke was, Vader's son, per se, but she knew that that boy means a lot to Vader. So she was trying to kill Luke as like a final act of revenge to Vader.
But I think it's a, first of all, talk about plot conveniences. The fact of that message and
Yes,
everything that went on with
yes,
that
yes,
message,
yes.
and then the broken message that she then receives. In my opinion, all of that was like lazy writing on some level. But
Okay,
there,
I gotta. Sorry. Uh, Again, given given the original thought Riva is to be killed, I do believe it is the fact that Riva survived. Like that must have come from the top.
yeah,
So
I
they
don't.
like so they want Riva to survive. So how do you make that happen, right? So I think
They
a lot of
basically
the
didn't explain it. Is how they made it
yeah,
happen.
I
They
know,
basically were
right,
like, "We're gonna
right,
still have her be stabbed,
right,
but
right, right, right,
actually
right,
she's
right.
alive."
Right. My point is though, there are when you say lazy writing, is that, well, some of the things that the writer didn't do a good job. But I think a lot of times, like, this is not the first time we heard about this kind of thing. It's like, well, we want the story to go this way, but then the top brass, they wanted the story to go that way. So, well, there we go. And I do think that because like Deborah Chow, like I just don't think I think the fact that Riva survived, and then and seemingly being like inspired by Obi-Wan to go on the right path down the line is what I mean. I think that's
Which,
clearly somebody's wish to, like, okay, well, let's let her continue so we can potentially make a show about maybe starring her as the main character or something like that,
yeah,
which I also
well,
don't like.
but
But
it's Deborah
I'm not
Chow
sure if we
didn't
can
write
blame
this
on.
show. This is not Deborah Chow's writing. This is Joby Harold or whatever, and then there were some other
Right,
people,
right,
but
right.
none of
I
them are
know, I
Deborah
know,
Chow.
I know, I know,
But like,
I know. But
I
but
I don't know who made the decision. I don't care who it was, but some of these decisions were very extremely convenient to the plot, to the point where it's like, are you kidding me? And then
sure,
secondly, they were lazy on some level, because it's just like there were other ways you could tell the story, make little tweaks that I think would have made it significantly better. But then again, I know they go through many iterations of these projects. I know this one in particular went from being one movie to three movies to a series, and they probably flip-flop between the length of how many episodes there was going to be and
yeah,
all this stuff. And there are some things about this show that it's like you could almost tell that they started out thinking of making a movie and then they switched it to be a show. Like, I don't know, but like, I just um I'm not really like blaming any one person, because I don't know I'm not trying to place blame on a certain individual, but I just mean like I think that there could have been some higher quality storytelling going on, but it is tricky because you are dealing with some very serious characters with some very important canonical territory. So it is tricky, but they literally have entire people who their whole job at Lucasfilm is to ensure that the canon stays intact and all this stuff that these writers can consult with in theory and all of this. But I do think, I also believe like part of what I think Lucasfilm's problem is with some of these shows that they've been coming out with is the difference between the Lucasfilm of today and the Lucasfilm that was under George Lucas is under George Lucas, you had a single visionary leading the charge. And now we are in a different situation, which is fine, but we don't have that single visionary anymore. We have many different visionaries making different projects. So they're not always like linked up together. They have different styles, like they have different storytelling tactics and all this. So like what we might be used to seeing in The Mandalorian is going to feel very different from what we end up seeing in Book of Boba Fett or in Kenobi or Ahsoka or whatever other shows, you know, are coming down the pipeline. Like every show is going to maybe have its own flavor to it, and maybe that's okay. But like
I think that's really okay.
Yeah, but it's more about the integrity of it that bothers me. It's like I'm fine with there being different flavors, different stories, different
Wait, hold on. I thought you mean consistent integrity.
yeah, like the integrity of the writing, like the quality and the consistency maybe is a good word to use. Like I do want it to be consistent with the canon, and I don't want to feel like I want to feel like the shows that I'm watching are propping up, are helping, just like in Rogue One, how Rogue One props it, like adds this unknown element that props up the original trilogy. It gives more meaning to A New Hope in a sense because it shows the whole story of how that message even got to.
I think but I think that's I in my mind that's exactly what this show achieves. It underscores a lot of the dialogues that we saw in the Revenge of the Sith or the New Hope or down the line that we thought, you know, we didn't think much of it, and then it just adds a whole backstory to it. Like the reason why Leia was like was so sort of, you know, very formal about like, you know, Obi-Wan, and why she like and the fact that Obi-Wan said like Vader kill your dad or something, or kill Anakin or kill your dad. You know, we thought it was a cover up of the fact that he actually actually I killed him, but I couldn't tell you that. I thought the show did a lot of that. Despite there are some like very inconvenient moments, that I admit, it's a little just too convenient.
Yeah, I don't know if it really like made anything. This show, I don't know if it really had a purpose that was strong enough that made anything in the other movies like more meaningful to me. It just either kept it about the same or even like undermined a couple things a little bit, because I'm not in the camp. Like I do think that there were some incredibly sweet moments between Princess Leia and Obi-Wan in this show that I really liked, but to me, and it was like very pleasant to watch and everything and very sweet. But to me, it's like it's almost like not worth seeing that for the fact that Leia very obviously does not know Obi-Wan in the original trilogy. And that's just like obvious that is the case. Like she didn't mourn his death when he died the way that Luke did or anything like that. But she also didn't really mourn Alderaan that much either. So I guess you could point that out.
Yeah, I don't see that as a violation of the canon, because or maybe I mean I think
it is a violation of the canon. I
It is?
told you, well, from my perspective, I told you like last time we talked, I'm going to be
Yeah.
pissed if somehow Leia's memory isn't wiped. And was her memory wiped? No.
No, no,
It's
no,
not
but
enough
like,
for me. I'm not saying that it can't be enough for you or for somebody else, but I'm just saying for me, it is a violation of the canon, and it is like it's this whole like, oh, promise not to tell anyone about our friendship. Like, I don't buy it. It's like not good enough. And also, she's a 10-year-old girl that doesn't listen to any adults. So why would she start listening to Obi-Wan now? Like, I don't
mm,
understand
mm,
how,
mm.
I it just doesn't line up with the character that they portrayed up until that point of who she is supposed to be, I guess, as a little girl. And I
Right.
think it's cute and all, and it's enjoyable to watch on some level, but to me, it's still a violation of canon. I think it would have been, I don't think that there's really a way that people can use the Force to
Wipe the
wipe
memory.
someone's memory, except for
Oh,
the only thing is like the Jedi mind trick where it's borderline that in a sense, because you're like in a,
mhm.
but you're only, it only is supposed to work to like simpler, I think it's only supposed to work to like simpler
Yeah, yeah,
minded
yeah. I
people.
really wouldn't. I would. Yeah, I would rather them not even try that. Like, okay, let me just wipe your memory with my force. Like that would be just no. I wouldn't want to see that. Yeah, I guess we just have
Well,
to
I
agree
don't want to
to,
see
agree
that
to
either.
disagree. I mean, for me, I would. Yes, I would. I think we disagree on this aspect, which is I feel like, even though, yeah, if I think those moments are worthwhile for me at least. Like I'm happy that they put those in. I'm happy that Obi-Wan and Leia had those moments, even though that would make her reactions down the line a little weird and unexplainable. But for me,
I
it's
just don't, it
yeah.
doesn't feel right to me that the whole show was based on Obi-Wan's relationship with Leia and had almost nothing between him and Luke. And then, in fact, the whole show was Obi-Wan neglecting Luke, leaving him unprotected, which backfired big time. And then someone literally tries to go and kill Luke, and Obi-Wan does nothing except stand there and wait for her to lay down a boy that everybody thinks is dead, and I couldn't understand why Owen, Beru, nor Obi-Wan like ran over immediately to like attack her, especially Obi-Wan because he has a freaking lightsaber. Like, they thought she was walking up with a dead Luke, and nobody rushed at her to like get her the heck away from him. And I was just like, that was weird. And then she lays him down, she cries her sob story, and then
Right,
Obi-Wan
right,
goes over and basically is like, "You're forgiven." It's like, what? This this
right.
person,
Okay, I think
this
you don't like the
person,
show at all then. I think
this
you don't like
person.
this show at all. Which is fine, but like I thought you liked the show. It seems like you don't at all.
I like the parts that are between Obi-Wan and Vader and Obi-Wan and Anakin for the most part.
Okay, okay. Got
And
it.
that's it, because that's what I wanted out of this show, because that's what they told us the show was going to be about originally. And instead, the show mostly ended up being about these other things. So yes, I'm a little bit disappointed in that, because I did think it was going to be more, we would get to see a lot more between um well, I like the parts that were Obi-Wan and Vader, and maybe I wouldn't say that we would have more of that, because I also think if they had gone too far with that, that would have been a mistake too. And they were already treading on some tricky territory there. But I think they pulled it off, and I think that that's the only reason why the show is good, honestly. But I do
Sure.
also think I'm not opposed to Leia being in the show. I think that was really cool when they first brought her in, but I think she should have been in like 2, maybe 3 episodes, or 2.5 episodes, and that was it. And I think she should have only known Obi-Wan as Ben. I think maybe I could have bought it at just that she just thought his name was Ben. She never saw him use a lightsaber or anything like that. She never, I don't know. But like that would have been acceptable. So I thought initially when she was the first couple episodes, I was actually really digging that. But unfortunately, the really sweet moments between them do happen in the later episodes. So it's like, you know, I hate to say like I don't want those moments because they are like beautiful moments between the two of them. But again, I guess I just think that it's not worth the, I don't know, the fact that that took up so, maybe it's just the fact that it took up so much time instead of us seeing more of, I would have liked to see in the show multiple flashbacks between Obi-Wan and Anakin where they actually de-aged them too, because I don't know why they didn't do that, as cool as that one flashback was. Well, actually, there's multiple flashbacks with Hayden, and they didn't de-age him for any of them, which I think it would have been cooler to de-age him personally, but I'm not complaining, so whatever. So multiple flashbacks, and including a flashback to the Clone Wars between Obi-Wan and Anakin. That would have been so freaking sweet. And then I would have had them show a lot more of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, which I was happy to see Qui-Gon, but they saved him for right at the end and barely, you know, again, was barely in there, which maybe that was a thing with Liam Neeson, like he only had so much time to give or whatever. But like they could have done a lot more with Qui-Gon's voice and had like Obi-Wan training. I would have liked to see the whole, they could have used this show as a way to explore a lot more about the Force, the lore of the Force and how all that works. Like that's what I would have liked. That's what I thought I was going to, or that's what I was hoping to get out of the show. And we got none of that. We actually, yeah. And so that bothered me too a little bit. But I did like seeing Qui-Gon. I thought that was sweet. We kind of predicted Chi. I'll just say this and then I'll let you say your piece. But we kind of talked about how we were hoping for or thought that like part of Vader's like helmet might get like sliced off at some point. And
yeah, that was great. That was a great moment. Even though it was like, well, it's not in Rebel already, but you know, fine. I'm not complaining. That scene was powerful. Way powerful than the one in the Rebel.
Yeah, I thought that scene was amazing. I heard some people's like reviews complaining about that, like copying Rebels, but I had no issue with it. I was hoping for that because I was like, that would be sick if they showed Hayden's face in there. Like, I don't know, it was just awesome. And I thought, first of all, like the acting in that scene alone made up for a lot of the stuff that I didn't like in this show. It was just incredible. Like but that's the thing with watching that finale. I was like, this is so amazing. Why did it take them so, like, it just made me also think, like, I was so happy to be seeing it, but then I was also like, it highlighted how much of that we didn't get in this show that we could have had. But that's why I will end with this part of what I'm saying with saying that I am happy, or I thought as I was watching this show, like the whole time I was thinking, I hope they don't do a season 2. I hope they don't do a season 2. I just want them to stick to what they said of this is a limited series. It's just going to be these 6 episodes because I wanted them to be great. You know, I just wanted them to throw their all into these episodes. Well, now at the end, after watching the finale, I kind of have changed my mind on that. And now I'm hoping for a season 2 because I think if there's a lot that they could do with the season 2 now. So at least they did do a good job of leaving themselves open for that possibility. And maybe the season 2 will be even better. And then I'll be, you know, shutting up forever because I complained about season 1 and then season 2 is everything I hope for. I don't know. Probably not, but you know, all those thoughts were going through my head. But I will say, like, I was ranting there for a bit about some of the stuff in the finale, but I mean, honestly, I could just not talk about any of that stuff anymore and only ever think about like the Obi-Wan Vader interaction, which there were still some things about their fight that I didn't quite love, but I loved the dialogue between them, the acting between them. I thought Hayden was amazing. Like I thought he did great. I could tell like that he was acting through just seeing half of his face, and like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
amazed me
Yeah.
because
He was, yeah. I mean, that
yeah,
scene I think was one of my favorite scenes in the whole. You know, okay, I'm gonna say this now. I'm gonna make a bold statement, but I think that's gonna go down as one of the most iconic moments in all the Star Wars things, because that was powerful. That was so powerful. Like,
yeah,
yeah, like I yes,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
yes, I agree. I
I
fully
thought
agree
it
with
was
you.
great.
That
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah, I thought it was it they managed to somehow like almost get to the same or maybe I won't even say almost. I'll say I would say that that conversation or that dialogue between Obi-Wan and Vader or slash Anakin, it really was like on par with the dialogue between them at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Be like, "You are my brother, Anakin." Like that whole part,
Yeah,
like it really like it was so good in the sense that it reminded me of that, but it wasn't the same. You know, it was a
yeah,
different
yeah,
conversation.
yes, yes, yeah. Because it's been 10 years
Yeah,
on. Like both characters have, have lived 10 more years with whatever, ever since that moment happened. And for Obi-Wan, it's like this deepening guilt, right? Like he failed Anakin and he was sorry about everything. And for Anakin, it's it's just, yeah, it's the fact that he killed Anakin from that moment on, and now he's like, yeah. I also thought like the it's very clever that they mixed Hayden's voice with the James Earl Jones's voice. Like we hear Anakin and Vader sort of in a single sentence, going from one to the other. I thought that was very, very well done. Um,
I agree. I loved
yeah,
that.
it was amazing. That was
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
I
I
really
love the
loved
movie.
that.
I rewatched the movie like a lot of times, and also like I watch people's reaction to the moment. Um, and also they're both just great actors. So you see like, Hayden like only
Yeah,
have a face like, like half lit by his like lightsaber, and it's all deformed and all that. And then you saw like, Ewan, it was like, yeah, heartbroken. It's just, yeah, it's great actors acting out a great scene. That was amazing.
that's what I think would have been so cool to see a little bit more of that in almost like flashback form though, like between the two of them, because when they
Yeah,
get
because
together like they do have incredible. I heard one person's review where they said like Hayden and Ewan really do have incredible
hmm
chemistry on screen, like, and it is true, like they do,
they
they
do.
really do. And you could tell just, I mean, like you watch interviews of them and they speak like they're friends, like they speak really highly of each other. Like they seem to have become really close during the prequels and all that. And that shines through like in their acting on screen. Like they do bring out the best in each other as actors. And I think that that's really cool. But I also just wanted to say like, I really liked how they merged the voice. I had just watched before the finale, like there was some interview on YouTube, like a press thing that Hayden did where somebody asked him, like, are we ever hearing your voice in
In the
in
show.
the suit or something? And he said, like, they were like, is that ever your voice or is it all like James Earl Jones or whatever? And he said, there might be a little something where they do a little movie magic with my and James Earl Jones voice. So he had
He
just
said
said
that.
that.
He actually said that.
Yeah, and I was
Oh,
like, "Oh
wow.
gosh, you
That's a
probably got in
huge
trouble for that."
that's a huge spoiler. I mean, nobody probably like probably not a lot of people would think too much about that, but like knowing what we know, yeah, that's a huge spoiler.
Well, I know. I don't think he quite said it that clearly. He was being a little bit more cryptic, but like
Oh,
I
okay.
can't remember exactly what his words were, but it was something like, "You might hear my voice a little bit in there." Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. And then so
Oh,
when I
okay.
got to that part, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's what he was talking about." And I still wasn't expecting it to be quite like that. Like I didn't think it was going to be like merged the way that they mixed that together and like going in and out of his voice and stuff and I just thought that was a great thing to do because I feel like one of the big criticisms of Hayden's like Anakin was his like how he spoke and like his tone of voice and his like cadence that he talked with in the prequels. Like, you know, he has a very distinctive way that he spoke as Anakin. And people criticize him for that, for being like wooden or whatever. And I remember seeing in the behind the scenes for like one of the prequels where he said like, you know, I was trying to basically make my voice sound like a similar cadence to what how Darth Vader speaks. So he's already trying to do that, which people gave him a lot of flack for, but it actually like when you see this scene in Kenobi, I feel like it does show that the way Hayden speaks as Anakin does kind of line up. I mean, I know that they did use like movie magic to like make that work extra good with the mixing of their
Mm-hmm.
voices, but like still it was like it does show that the way Hayden speaks as Anakin and that cadence like really does work. It is a similar cadence to how Darth Vader speaks. So it's like I think he was actually doing a pretty good job even though
Yeah,
some people didn't like that. So
I don't know. Like my thoughts on this is like it's I thought the whole point was that Anakin shouldn't sound like Vader at all, because I think that it's because like he basically killed. He had become a total different person, and then he's like half man, half robot. So again, I didn't think Hayden's delivery was wooden at all. Like I didn't get that impression when I watched the prequels. I thought it was I sort of knew that people didn't like it or he was criticized for it, but I had no problem with it, and I'm actually
yeah, me
happy
either.
that
I never had a problem with it either.
he like Anakin didn't sound like Vader at all, because I think that's the way it's supposed to be. You know, there shouldn't be any carryover from like Anakin to Vader, because that's what it's about, right? Like the you know the character has gone through this total transformation physically and like mentally. So like the whole like the cadence, the voice, the physique, it's all just different now. And I think that's actually what's fascinating about Vader slash Anakin, is how different these two, you know it's like the same person but different, but at the same time
Yeah,
totally different.
yeah.
I think that was very fascinating actually. um
Well, it is supposed to be it's supposed to sound completely different, but
yeah,
Hayden and I'm sure George Lucas had input on this, so I'm sure Hayden
yeah.
wasn't just doing it without George Lucas kind of telling him to do it that way. Um but like they're in the behind the scenes from um I don't remember if it was Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith, but one of them, he's talking about that and he says how he purposefully was trying to like start to move into that cadence that Darth
Mm.
Vader. It's more about the cadence. It's not about the he obviously their voices sound nothing alike and they're not supposed to. But it's like, you know, Anakin in the prequels, he goes like, I can't do a good impression of it, but some people can. But it's like, you know, he'll be like, "Yes, master." You know, it's like very kind of monotone. People used to say
Uh-huh,
that's
uh-huh.
the thing they used to say is very monotone. But the reason why
Right.
he sounds that way is because he was actually trying to sound that way, because he's trying to convey through the voice that Anakin was like, in some sense, he was very stifled all the time. He's constantly, he was this
Like, yeah,
slave that couldn't escape
repressed.
slavery. Yeah, and he was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
being
Okay.
suppressed, and he was constantly stifled, having to like kind of, have this very, yes, master, no, master. Like, I don't know. He had this very
Mm.
monotone way about him, because that does like it makes for somewhat of a smoother, you understand then why Darth Vader kind of talks in that like very plain, like monotone almost voice. And yeah, but it's not the same. It's definitely, two
Mm-hmm.
distinct like characters there going on. And there is a total
Yeah.
transformation. He's more machine now than man and all of that. But I think that doing that mixture of Hayden's voice and that dialogue with James Earl Jones's, or whatever they did there, it was like showed that like way that Hayden speaks, it does like lend itself to the way
Mm.
Darth Vader speaks. Unlike Matt Lanter does not do that in the animated Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Matt, and I think that they specifically told Matt Lanter too, for this cartoon, we want you to be like more animated. We want you to be more happy-go-lucky. Like his voice is very like upbeat and all that, which is
Mm.
cool. It's great for the character of Anakin, but then you start to think like, how does that become Darth
Become
Vader's
Vader.
voice?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That
yeah,
is true. That is true.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why when in Rebels, when they have Matt Lanter as Anakin, wait, I can't even remember how that goes with his voice in that scene in Rebels, but I feel like it's more. Can you hear Matt Lanter's voice in that, or is it more
You mean like
just Darth
when the
Vader's
helm was cut
voice?
open by Ahsoka? That like
Yeah,
she
yeah,
then you will die.
yeah.
No, I didn't even realize it was Mel Enter. I thought it was just
I think it
um
is Matt Lanter.
I didn't realize that. I
Yeah.
didn't look it up. I just assumed it was a different person doing the voice.
Okay.
Um maybe they
I
just
don't
did
know.
like a voice
Whatever.
change. Like they just changed the like digitally changed the quality of the voice and that was it.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'd have to rewatch that scene. I
But
kind of forget.
it wasn't mixed. It wasn't like,
Not
you
the
know,
same effect. Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
he didn't say that much. He said, "Well,
No.
then you will die," and that was pretty much it.
Which was a
Uh,
very well delivered line,
oh
by the
yeah.
way.
It was
Yeah.
powerful. It was powerful, but it wasn't. Yeah, but it's not like we get this like mixture of like Anakin and
Hmm.
Vader at the same time.
Hmm.
I would say this scene is like way more powerful than that one though. Like that one is already pretty good. Like this one is
Yeah.
like, oh man, oh my god,
Well, and
yeah.
I think they did it so that like this scene with Obi-Wan um is what gives Vader that like scar on his head at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Really?
Yeah, like, do you know
Oh,
what I'm talking about? When I
yeah.
saw some
I
people
do, I do.
saying that
I thought, but this
because
it wasn't there already.
that no,
Oh, dang!
he was
I missed.
burned on Mustafar, but he didn't have this like there's obviously this like
Yeah,
almost
yeah. I know. It's
gash,
like this. Like, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I okay.
and I
I didn't catch that at all.
go back and watch the Vader Obi-Wan like sequence from Kenobi show,
Yeah.
and you'll see like his lightsaber really does come down like on top of his head, and I think it
Yes.
like makes that,
Oh,
and yeah,
okay.
and it just like it
Oh,
scars
that's
him
cool.
for the rest of his life. Yeah, it's really cool because people, I think, were back when Rebels came out and that scene was released with Ahsoka cutting off
Mm,
part of his helmet. I think some people were wondering at that time if Ahsoka was the one that gave it to him, but she did it on the opposite, on the wrong side of the head, and
yeah.
Obi-Wan
Yeah.
did it on the right
And
side,
also, I
and it,
think only this part came out. Like she didn't cut it all the way through.
yeah,
I don't think. Yeah.
no, and you should like if you go back and watch it, you can really see Obi-Wan's like lightsaber like coming down like right on his head, like where that would be.
Yeah, no,
So
no, that I do remember, but I just
yeah,
didn't. I guess I never, it never occurred to me to put these things together.
I know,
I,
right? That's
yeah,
cool.
I realized it was, yeah, it was came down, it was cracked all the way from the top,
Yeah,
not just like this part, but like all the way from the top.
yeah,
And I also know that in, in the Return of the Jedi, when, when we last saw Darth Vader with helmet off, he had this like scab thing, but I just thought that was like a burned wound from the from way back when. I didn't realize that was, yeah, I just didn't put the two things together, which, wow, which was,
yeah.
wow, that was cool. That was
I
cool.
would say that that's my favorite thing, that this show for me, it does add a deeper layer of meaning to something that happened in the original trilogy, like knowing that Obi-Wan is the one that put that there,
Hmm.
that scar came from Obi-Wan, like that's pretty cool. So
Yeah. I
I'm
think
okay with that.
my favorite would actually be when Anakin told Obi-Wan that he is the one that killed Anakin. I really
Yeah,
like
I like that too.
when he said, "I'm not your failure," which I thought was so, like, that was just so, that whoever wrote that line must
Yeah,
have understood Vader really well. Because yes, Anakin would not want to live as Obi-Wan's failure. He would never
right.
allow that. So like, so of course
Mm,
he would be the one. If anyone is to kill Anakin, he has to be
mm-hmm,
himself.
mm-hmm.
I thought that was so well written.
Yeah,
That was so good.
yeah,
And again, I think that's underscore the line in, I
yeah.
forgot which episode that was, but when Obi-Wan told Luke that Vader was going to kill your dad, because we
Mm-hmm,
used to think he was
mm-hmm,
just covering. It was a
mm-hmm,
white lie, about not being able to tell Luke that he was actually the one that killed his father,
mm-hmm,
or responsible for pushing Anakin over the fence to become Vader. But then
mm-hmm,
with this scene, we know, no. I mean, yes, Obi-Wan sort of, he played a part, but ultimately it was Anakin himself that decided to turn to the dark side. Even if the whole Mustafa thing didn't happen, like Anakin was just normal, like not deformed, not burned, not machine, he was still like, the same thing would still have happened. Um, I thought that was, for me, that was my favorite sort of adding in the blanks, filling in the blank thing that this show did.
yeah, yeah,
That was it.
yeah. It's this
Yeah.
weird thing where it's like, yeah, I really liked all the I thought that you're making a very good point there, because it's like I was complaining about the writing earlier, and I do have a lot of things about the writing that are still baffling to me, but like there are some great examples in this show too of like very high quality writing, which is what is so maddening about it, because it's like you're able to do it for these scenes, like
Yeah.
why
Okay.
not
So
carry
so
that through?
that is why I think that a lot of the weird things, like the low quality thing you're referring to, was actually a compromise between, okay, well, it was like the extra concern about, okay, well, now we also want Riva to live. Like
Well, that
I really think that was like something came from the top, and they want us to go this particular way. So yeah, they gotta put in those very convenient sort of twists to make that happen. Yeah. Which, yeah,
yeah,
I think, I'm not gonna say they're super convenient, but I think I wouldn't, I don't know, I guess I'm more reluctant to jump to the conclusion that it was just purely lazy writing, because I think that means something else to me, which I'm not sure that's actually what happened. um
well, it's to me, I guess I use that term in that one example, but it's because there are many examples in this show of a lot of things that popped up that I felt like, excuse me, like it's just like it
yeah.
seems, and so when it happens over and over and over again, it's almost like I guess they're purposefully just ignoring this stuff, and then that makes me want to call it lazy. But That's not
you know,
because of just one thing or one example. And I know it's like multiple writers and a whole team of people bringing all of this together. So it's like, and they did consult with like people that are experts on the lore and everything else. And I know that they're not going to try to purposely like break canon or anything like that. So they're trying to keep it true to canon, but is just like things added up over the for the show as a whole. If I took like the last episode alone, I think I would have just been like, that was a great episode. Like that was a phenomenal episode. But when
yeah.
you add things up as a whole, that's when I start to look at it like there were just some things that were a bit baffling, or I just don't understand why it couldn't be better. And like I even maybe even watching Stranger Things around the same time that I was watching this show didn't help matters, because in Stranger Things they managed to churn out way longer, way more screen time, like way longer episodes, have all kinds of visual effects and stuff. And yeah, maybe their visual effects aren't like pristine on every level, but it's like good enough for what it is. And
Yeah.
they were able to have a final episode that was an hour and 40 minutes long. And now we got two more that I think are also supposed to be pretty long. And it's just like, they should have pulled out all the stops in my mind for this show, and like they should have done that. They should have had a finale that was like an hour 45 minutes long or something like that. They should have started off with a bang if I was them. I mean, they did kind of with that Order 66 scene, was pretty sweet way to start out, but like I think I would have started out like right off the bat with like a Clone Wars flashback. I mean, that would have driven people nuts. Like to see right off the bat, like Hayden, and no one would have been expecting it. Like I would have been like, team, here's what we got to do. We have to aim really, set the bar really high with this show. And I'm sure that that's what they did, and they attempted it. It just didn't quite hit the mark for me on this particular show, but I'm open to it for season 2, because I think that there were some great moments that are, I would be excited to see where they go with them next, because maybe now that we've been introduced to some of these new characters, we've been reacquainted with where Obi-Wan and Vader are at this point. I kind of think if they do a season 2, it maybe shouldn't be as much to do with Obi-Wan and Vader. Vader will go off. They'll have to do something, a separate storyline with Vader, but like they could still do a lot with Obi-Wan that they didn't do yet. So I think that would be sweet.
Yeah, I think we get a season 2. I suspect Riva would be like a bigger part in it, because going back to something we talked
Either
earlier,
that or she'll pop up in a different show and play a
something like
role in
that. Yeah,
another
yeah. But
show.
maybe they
Like,
want to test the water more before having her own independent show, is to have her feature more in, to have Obi-Wan carry her a little more and to see if people likes her or not. No, but like, we talked about Obi-Wan told Roken that it's only the beginning for you, right? And when I saw that, because the other thing, one of the transitions Obi-Wan made is that he, at the beginning, he met a Jedi on the run, right? And he told him that you should just bury your lightsaber and just live a normal life, forget about it. The fight is over. But at the end, towards the end, because he's like better off mentally, right? Like he's not depressed and guilty anymore. He started to say, okay, well, we should keep on fighting. We should keep just playing our roles. He told that to Riva. He told that to Roken. So I guess when I saw that, I just thought, okay, well, now he resumed his role as a mentor to not just Padawans, but just for people who might want to, like, people who are resisting the Empire. It didn't, because you said you thought that made you wonder why we didn't get Roken more. uh
It just seemed to me that it's almost like they wrote more for him that
yeah, and
we
it was
didn't
cut out,
actually
right?
see. Yeah,
Yeah,
that it
yeah,
was
yes,
cut out.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I guess I didn't. I mean, I didn't. Not to say. I think that's totally valid, but I didn't think that deep into it. I just thought, okay, well, he is just inspiring people now because he is mentally ready to do that. Like before, he was just so defeated and like, like and depressed and guilty that he just he's not practicing force anymore. He's just given up.
Mhm.
But now he's like, he's in it again.
Mhm.
um that's, I mean, that's as deep as I took that, really.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
maybe I just I totally didn't wonder why, if anything was cut out with Roken. I didn't think of it that way. But again, I mean, that's totally valid. What you just said was valid. Maybe there actually was more shot with Roken, but just
I
but was
only
was
bring
cut
that up.
out.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I only bring that up as an example of one instance where that first became really noticeable to me because he was
Oh, okay.
introduced in like the third episode or something, and it was just this really awkward conversation that at the time when I watched it, I was like, I thought I had missed something, but then I
Mm,
remember like hearing some people's like reactions or reviews and stuff, and other people were commenting on how he just took this weird like 180 where one second he was saying no, I'm not going to help you, I'm not going to help you, and then the next second he was like, actually I'll help you, like for no reason. He essentially, like, he tells the story of his wife, but the way that if you rewatch that scene, it doesn't, it almost like they cut out part of that conversation. I believe that they edited out part of that conversation,
mhm,
which they
mhm.
probably did for some important reason of some kind, but it's beyond me what it is because it's not like that episode was particularly long and they were facing a long runtime or something. All these episodes were
Yeah.
like 30 minutes max. And so I just, I don't know. I don't know what it could be. It could have been that
Mhm.
there was something else that revealed something in that conversation that they don't want to reveal to us yet or allude to yet. I don't know. But it was just,
Yeah.
that was one example. But I even felt like, again, if you take the final episode in and of itself, I think it's pretty amazing. But even looking at the final episode within the context of the whole show, like, I don't know if you felt this way at all, but I even felt like Riva's redemption was a little rushed. It was like a little sudden.
Yes.
It's like they could have built that a bit differently where it landed better.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
you know what I mean?
I fully agree.
Yeah.
I think that just goes back to my comment earlier, is about, well, if you want to put Riva in there, just, I mean, again, I think she's shortchanged.
Hmm.
Really, like she just went from this really angry and seemingly just full, with her
Yes.
mind full of revenge, to like,
Yeah.
to I wouldn't I wouldn't say it totally, it makes no sense, because because you can tell that she, even though as keen her, as she has been on revenge, she is not one of the Inquisitors. Like, she is different from any of
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
I mean, that is very clear
Yeah.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say the fact she decided not to kill Luke was out of character. But yes, I would agree that if we should have, it would have been nice if we had taken more time with her character and see how she go from, just to see her light side more. Because in the video game,
Hmm.
Cal Kestis' mentor was also, um she's
Hmm.
not, Predator was not like Riva at all, but she was an ex Jedi
Hmm.
who was also strong with the dark side. So
Hmm.
apparently that's a totally different thing. Like, you can be strong with the Force,
Hmm.
but you can, but some of them are also strong with the dark side, and
Hmm.
that woman was strong with the dark side. So when she, when it gets too much for her, she would just explode and just like went on this, rage mode.
Hmm.
And it would have been nice to see more of that struggle
Yeah.
with Riva, because
Yeah.
she didn't really struggle at all. Like, she was pretty much with her mind set on, I'm just gonna kill Vader, and pretty much the whole time until it was time to kill a child, Luke for that matter, to exact her final revenge on Vader. And
Yeah.
well, obviously that couldn't have been the first time she faced a situation where she had to kill a child. I mean, she must have done it before. Why didn't she stop? What made her stop this time?
She saw
You know?
herself in Luke, which I'd just like to point out because sometimes people like to say, like, oh, you can't identify with a character that looks nothing like you, but that's not true. Like, I identify with Luke or I relate to him, whatever, however you want to say
Mhm.
it. And she
Yeah,
did too. Like Reva, the character of Reva does too. She saw herself in him in a sense. Like he reminded her of how she was at that age, and that, I guess, made her realize, like, this is not the way. This is not the
yeah.
way. The
I
opposite of the
know exactly,
Mandalorian creed.
but the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that she must, because she all their job is to hunt down and kill Force sensitive people and ex Jedi's, right? So she must have had to kill a Force sensitive child before, or at least be faced with that situation.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're
know.
right.
So it would have been nice for us to see she can kill anybody except when it comes to Force sensitive children. She would have a hard time killing them. Like Luke is not the first time
Yeah,
that she had this
yeah,
conflict.
yeah.
If we had seen a few
Right.
times where she had to like kill a
Yes.
child with Force capabilities and she
Yeah.
couldn't,
Yeah.
I mean that would just make her whole character more convincing, more compelling.
Yes.
But we
Or
didn't have time. We didn't
where
have
she
time
has
for
to
that.
find like creative ways to, well, and even if it wasn't with a child, even if it was an adult, like she might have trouble like killing adults too, because you would think, if but I mean her character didn't really, because she was definitely like killing, or she was very rageful, like she had a lot of rage,
Yeah,
and she was
yeah.
willing to go to all lengths
Or
to become.
or maybe she had problem with the Jedi's because she hates them for not rescuing her, right? So like maybe she's like really keen on
Oh yeah.
killing Jedi's, but
Yeah.
not to like any children because because
Right.
that would remind her like
Right.
this like
Yeah.
flashback would just show up every time she was faced with a Force sensitive kid.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been so nice to be a part of the show, but
Yeah.
again, it was shortchanged
Yeah.
because of the in interest of
Right.
time.
Exactly.
None of
Yep.
that happened, right?
Yep. They
So
could have, there's a lot more they could have done, but it's almost like they didn't have a, I don't know if it was the time that they had to film it or if it was the budget. But it's almost like there were limitations around this show that like don't make sense to me based on the
no,
characters that they were dealing with. It's like I would have liked them to throw a lot more at this show. And that is from the higher ups. That's not the director or the
yeah, yeah.
writers necessarily. That is them having to work within the
Yeah,
constraints of
yeah. I mean,
whatever
that is
constraints.
my point exactly. So,
Yeah.
and, this kind of thing would never see the light of day, until everybody is pretty much dead, right? But I really believe that it was the form. The format wasn't like Deborah Chow wasn't the one who said, "Okay, I'm gonna make a 6 episode, each one with like this length." It must have been from like some like higher ups, and they said, okay, well, let's make a show with these formats, and then okay, go tell
Oh,
a story. I
yeah.
because it
And
just
that like that
yeah,
bothers me because it's like then
yes, I
it's
think it's
like
unfortunate. Yeah,
monetary interests are coming in the way of the art of the thing, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that is
exactly.
always makes a worse product, but they know it's still going to make them
Yeah,
money because it's
yeah,
Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, like two of the most popular characters. So um
yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
frustrating to think
And
about,
also,
so I'm not
yeah,
going to
this
go on.
quest and another quest, establishing Riva as a potential like continuing recurring character. Now go, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah. And it's like that's fine to introduce new characters. I think that's great. But the thing with that is like we don't need that to be the highest priority in a show that's
no,
called Obi-Wan Kenobi. And
no,
it what it should be is they should how it should be in an if this was done in a purely artistic way, in my opinion, it would be they create characters that need to be there for the story. Then they let those characters play their role and be the character that they are. They develop that character through the story a little bit, but not too much, because the main characters are Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I guess Darth Vader is what they marketed this as, is like the rematch of the century, but mostly Obi-Wan Kenobi, okay? So the main characters, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the main arc is going to be around Obi-Wan's arc. But they could have these little side characters pop up. And here's the beauty of Star Wars, is people fall in love with side characters in Star Wars. And then people want to know about the side characters. So what you have to do is you have to let it organically grow like that. Like you have to introduce Reva as just a new Inquisitor, like another Inquisitor that we haven't met yet. Maybe sprinkle in some interesting things about her character, make us curious, introduce the mystery, the conflict of her character, however you want to do it, so that our interest is sparked as an audience. But don't let her overtake, like, still the stories about Obi-Wan. So she's just in the kind of the side character here for now. But if people fell in love with her character, then yes, go for it. Give her her own show. Have her popping up here and there. They're doing that with other characters from, I mean, they're doing it from Mandalorian, like, Andor, exactly. That's a good example. They are having characters cross over between these shows, like, that are popping up, you know, between shows too. So it's like Reva might have been a smaller character in Kenobi, but she might end up being a huge character in a different show, or she might be the main villain in another show. But it's like, when you already have Darth Vader as your main villain, it's like you can't also try to be promoting a second main villain when you have Darth Vader there. It's like you're just not going to be able to compete. But they did use her character in some interesting ways to, I think, to highlight Vader's, like, just how dominant Vader is in the Force. Like when she does attempt to kill him, like, I liked that fight a lot, actually, because it just shows like how freaking difficult to beat Vader is, because then that lifts Obi-Wan up too, because then you start to realize how insanely talented Obi-Wan is in the Force, because he can hold his own against Vader when he's at his full power. But even Obi-Wan, I would have liked to see a little bit more. Like, I agree with you that they did a pretty good job throughout the show of showing Obi-Wan's, like, slow, like, progression and how he
recovery. It's like a recovery.
But I would have liked to see that. I thought they were going to bring in Qui-Gon a bit earlier and have Qui-Gon play a role in that too, so that part of Obi-Wan getting his strength back has to do with he's
Qui-Gon's
reconnecting.
Help, right?
He's reconnecting with the Force, and he has all these. He does, and he learns. I don't know, but there's a lot more I think we might see potentially in the future.
I think so. Okay, so because we talked about this, I had hoped that we would see Qui-Gon earlier. But then after the finale, I thought actually they knew better, because the whole idea is that Obi-Wan was not just out of practice, but he's fallen out of faith, right? So it only makes sense that he cannot see Qui-Gon until he has put everything behind him and pick himself up and be Obi-Wan again, not just the Ben. Like, he said, well, it's just Ben these days, right? Like, he was like so resigned, right? Like, I just thought, okay, well, so obviously, when we saw Obi-Wan the last and then the finale, after everything's done, when he's like put on his old outfit, with his goggles like dangling around his neck, and like he's all like back, in the full spirit, that's when he will see Qui-Gon. I think I think that is actually better than if he had showed up like prior to even the final fight. Yes, I mean, yes, the more Qui-Gon Jinn, the better. Like, no one's like, I'm not getting tired of Qui-Gon at all. Like, I love to see him. but it wouldn't be it would be a fan service, but it would just be a little pandering, I think. Like in hindsight, like it would be, oh yeah, that's a little, you know, he probably
Yeah,
shouldn't have
maybe.
shown up that early. But I want to say, so I
Maybe.
think uh I realized that my opinion of the show was more favorable than yours is probably because I really didn't expect anything. Like, I expected to be good, but I didn't expect to have, say, a lot of like Anakin Obi-Wan flashbacks. Again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, or those expectations are somehow bad. No, not at all. I mean, they would have gone with those and made a different show, probably potentially better, superior show. But I just didn't have any of those. Like, I don't know what to expect. Um,
Yeah.
I
And
I I I and all so all everything I just said was based on, okay, well,
yeah.
given what was shown to me, given what they have decided to take on to tell the story, with Leia, with not a lot of Anakin flashbacks and all that. I was mainly considering the show based on what is there. And I don't like, for me at least, I don't know if I would be really that much happier if I saw a lot of Anakin flashbacks. We've seen a lot of those in the Clone Wars, and they're great. So maybe like my like sort of desire for that has been like satisfied with, I don't know, with them. So I
Yeah.
wasn't really disappointed that I didn't get to see a lot of those. Um, and I also didn't I wasn't even familiar with the promise that there's going to be like a showdown of the century thing. Like, I just, okay, well, they're going to face each other at one point for sure, but
Oh,
I didn't, yeah, like um
rematch of the century is what they say.
yeah. I think it's going to be a pretty good rematch, and
Yeah.
it's going to like settle the debts between the two. But I didn't like expect much beyond that. um
Well, I think I
yeah,
only thought I probably wouldn't have been expecting a little bit more flashbacks potentially, except for um they made such a big deal of bringing Hayden back
hidden back.
into this. And
Yeah.
they had him doing all the promos for the show like as if he's one of the main characters in the show, which he is, but like we don't actually get to see that much of Hayden. But that
Mm, mm.
it was okay. Like I don't want to complain about what we did get to see because I think that all that was great. But for
Yeah.
me, I would never get sick of seeing flashbacks between the two of them because their dynamic is just so
Mhm.
interesting because they're brothers, but they're like they are it's like they have that symbolic thing about them where like they're like brothers like in that mythological sense, like Romulus and Remus or Cain and Abel almost. Like, I mean, there's differences there between those stories and Obi-Wan and Anakin's story, but like they are interesting because they're brothers, but they're kind of opposites too. Because Anakin is like the the prodigy that comes from he comes from a dark like background, I guess, but he is insanely talented without having to try very hard, and he's just naturally very strong with the Force. Whereas Obi-Wan's story, from what I understand, is Obi-Wan's kind of the opposite. He's the guy that has to work really, really hard to get to where he's at, but then when he gets there, he's also incredibly powerful in the Force too. But like Obi-Wan took Anakin was the youngest person ever to be put on the council. Obi-Wan was like the oldest it took him forever to graduate from Padawan to Jedi Knight. Like he took a long time to move through the ranks because he just took longer to master things. But once he has them mastered, he did become very, very powerful, one of the most powerful Jedi. I mean, he's a Jedi master. So it's like he's amazing at what he does, but he has to work really hard for it. Whereas Anakin was like opposite thing. And for Obi-Wan to be like slapped with that responsibility of having to like raise this kid that is like so different from him in that way. Like to me, that's like a fascinating, like great storytelling territory there, and like something that definitely ties into both the original trilogy and the prequels very significantly, because Obi-Wan's character, you know, goes through both of those, and also Anakin does too, as well, in the form of Darth Vader in the original. So it's like, I think that they could have, or I would have loved to see a little bit more with that, but we might still get some. I mean, I think Hayden seems like he's gonna pop up in the Ahsoka
Ahsoka.
show, and the only way he could really pop up in that as Anakin would be flashbacks. So I'm thinking,
or Force Ghost.
or Force Ghost. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
that is, yeah.
Yeah, and I have heard people talking about that.
Because we actually saw him as a Force Ghost already.
Yeah, yeah, to Luke, for
Yeah.
Luke. But that's the thing, like, this is why I want to know more about this Force lore stuff, because it's like Yoda
How did that happen, right? Like he shouldn't have known how to do that, right?
how does Luke automatically see these Force ghosts, but Obi-Wan like had to go through this whole process in order to see Qui-Gon, but Qui-Gon isn't even supposed to be a full-fledged Force ghost, I guess. Like, well, he did show up that way in the show, which I'm glad it was actually Liam Neeson and not just
Yeah,
his
I know.
voice, you know?
Yeah,
But like
Uh-huh.
they I don't know, there's like different level, there's a lot to be explored there. Like that was something like I really thought they were going to do in this show, because they did that in Clone Wars a little bit. Like they showed how Yoda learned how to um become a Force ghost or commune with Force ghosts or something. Well, Qui-Gon was like the first one to figure it out. I don't know. There's a lot there that I don't
I
know
know.
that I would
Yeah,
like to know.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
like they should show that, and then that would provide a lot of context to stuff that happens in the original Star Wars movies with the Force ghosts, and that would be so freaking cool. And maybe they
Yeah,
will
that'll
do
be
that in Ahsoka. But it's like, seriously, you're gonna do that with Ahsoka, but you're not gonna do that in Kenobi? It's like, come on. Like, I love Ahsoka, but Obi-Wan and Anakin have a deeper relationship even than Ahsoka and Anakin, in my opinion. But I don't know. And
I
Luke
think
might
so.
have been able to see Force ghosts because maybe he's just so strong with the Force. And I think that's the argument people have put for Darth Vader or Anakin being able to become a Force ghost
That's
without.
what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's like, well, how did he not do that? Like he just die and become a Force Ghost automatically? Like how does that work?
Yeah, well, the one podcast I listened to, they said something like they always thought that it was like Anakin's just so strong, like he has such a high midichlorian count that like it was just like a more natural process for him or something. I don't even know, but it was like some
Could be.
excuse like
Could,
that,
yeah,
that
yeah.
he just naturally is so in sync with the Force
Yeah,
at that
yeah. So like
point.
when he died, that's what happens. No training
Yeah,
required. I no, I think I
not
would buy
really
that
fair, but
I would
it's
buy that
apparently
explanation.
how it works.
Yeah, I think I'll buy it. Sure. Yeah, I mean it would be
He's the
okay, so
chosen one.
I think Vader, the problem with Vader is that you really can't use him. He really can't show up too much. I think
Exactly,
he
I agree.
so for him to come back in a Ahsoka show, or for that matter, for any show, I think it would be, if he is back as Vader, like as Darth Vader, then we are not gonna see a lot of him. That's just what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's come back either as Anakin or as like a redeemed Vader, then there's no limit. We can see as much of him as the story requires, and I hope we get more of that in the Ahsoka show, because I do think he's great in that role.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see him play Anakin, not as the young Anakin, when he did like 20 years ago, but as like as a I don't know, matured Anakin. So like
Force
when the Return of the Jedi, when we first thought Vader as the Force Ghost, it was it was not Hayden, right? And then they
Mhm.
fixed that after the prequels came out. Did you know this?
George Lucas changed it with the
Yeah.
special editions, yeah,
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
Hayden,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he
So I
said,
would love to see like that Anakin, like the redeemed uh ex Vader Anakin Skywalker. That would be sweet. I would love to see more of that.
yeah, 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 because I think George Lucas said something like the reason why he changed it is because um, the idea is that you become a for when you the form you take as a force ghost is the form you were at when you were the strongest in the force. And Anakin was actually stronger in the force before he became Darth Vader because he lost so much. Like right before he became
Oh,
Darth Vader is when he was strongest because he in all of his like injuries that he got, he like lost so much of his body that he really
yeah.
did become like weaker. He was very strong still because he's the chosen one. He's very strong, has a lot of midichlorians, but he
Mhm.
actually was stronger right before uh, that fateful fight with
Mhm.
Obi-Wan on Mustafar. So that's my understanding of it, at least.
So George
People
Lucas said. So you said George Lucas said this. Oh, okay.
Oh, George, what the part that I was referring to that George Lucas said was that the idea of, or what he decided with the special editions is that he thought you would actually return to the form that you had when you were strongest with the
Strongest.
force.
Oh, okay. I
So
didn't know
Darth
this.
Vader, like, that's why he put Hayden in,
Mm.
because Darth Vader was on the dark side of the force and was very strong in the dark side, but um I guess the idea is once Vader Anakin became redeemed, like he would return as Force Ghost back to the form he had when he was strongest in the light side of the Force or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so that's why he's that way, but Obi-Wan and Yoda still have their older, they look like
Mm.
like it's Alec Guinness and an older Yoda, not
Older
like a
Yoda.
young buck of a Yoda. Like it's just a little it's they're the same age because that's when they actually were the most powerful in the force,
Mm.
or the most closely linked to the force or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
George Lucas said. But the part that I was saying about Anakin being more powerful before he lost all of his limbs and
Mm.
became Darth Vader,
Yeah.
that I don't know if George Lucas himself has said that directly, but he may have. But I heard that information from through a different source, like, but I think it was credible. So that's why I
Yeah.
believe that
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
true. But I don't know if George Lucas has been quoted saying like Anakin was actually stronger in the Force than Darth Vader or whatever. But I think it's
Mhm.
more about like when you were, maybe it's more like when you're more closely aligned, when you were the closest aligned with like the light side of the Force, or the most powerful with the light side of the Force, because you can only become a Force ghost through the light side, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
so maybe that's what it was. Maybe I kind of misspoke when I said strongest in the force, because I think I said last time to you, Chi, something like you can actually become like more powerful using the dark side in a way, or more
Mhm.
powerful more quickly using the dark side. It's kind of like a cheat code where you like
Mm.
get to advance faster than you would if you were doing it through the light side. But but I think it's a difference between being powerful and being like strong in the light side of the force. Like, I don't know.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's what gets you force ghost. But that's why we need to see more of this stuff, because I don't really know. It's very confusing, and I think it would be cool to see more. But like to learn more about like how this stuff works in the minds of these storytellers that are putting these stories together these days. But maybe that's even more
Yeah,
dangerous territory than what they already tried to do.
maybe.
So maybe
I
I
would actually
shouldn't
love to
wait.
see, because also there's possibility in the Ahsoka show for Luke to see Anakin Skywalker again.
That's what I was actually thinking that
You
as you
know?
were saying that too. I was like, they could have, because Dave Filoni has definitely been hinting that, I'm pretty sure he's been hinting that Ahsoka is the one who kind of like has helped train Luke. Because Luke, after Yoda and Obi-Wan die, he has no one in the original
Mm.
trilogy to train him. So how did he become so good at using the lightsaber and stuff like that? So Dave Filoni's definitely been hinting. I'm pretty sure Ahsoka, he's going to have Ahsoka be responsible at least for part
Oh
of Luke's
wait,
training.
hold on. Uh, can Ahsoka see Force ghosts if she's not a Jedi anymore? It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
Does it matter? Because she's
that
not technically on the light side. She's not a Jedi anymore.
well, she's still a force user and she's
Yeah,
still,
yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't say she's on the dark side. So I think she's on the light side. She's using the light side of the force and she uses it. And so I don't think you have to be a Jedi to see a force ghost, but I
You just
think,
be on the light side, or at least you just can't be on the dark side. Okay.
yeah, I think you have to be, but I don't know all the rules yet, because apparently Obi-Wan couldn't just like automatically see
Hmm.
Qui-Gon. He had to be in the right mental space in order to see him.
Yeah.
But Luke seemed to be able to fairly easily um communicate with force ghosts. Yeah. And but then there's supposed to be a whole process of how you become a force ghost too. So we don't know that, but
Yeah.
we know that Anakin is a force, or is able to be a force ghost. So Anakin, I think I have heard speculation that, like, you know, does he people speculating, like, does Anakin appear to Ahsoka, or does he only appear to Luke? Does he appear to Luke again? Does he start to have a relationship with Luke as a Force ghost? Like, how much can Force ghosts really be in someone's life, or can they just like pop in here and there at random times, like when they're needed most or something? Like, I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
There's so many questions, but I think it would be kind of,
Yeah. I'll
I
say yes to all these questions.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
think it's kind of
under the
would be
premise that they
bad.
don't overuse it. I think it'd be so great if we get to see Luke and Anakin again, and Ahsoka and Anakin together again.
Yeah.
That would be so great.
Well, and people have been dying for that conversation, like like between Luke and Ahsoka, where he tells her about what happened with Anakin at the end. And I kind of do think I'd rather that come from Luke than like Anakin's Force ghost just appear to Ahsoka. But I don't know. It could be
I agree. I agree.
It could be kind of crazy though if Ahsoka just like, if Anakin's Force ghost just randomly like pops up for Ahsoka one day and she like has to deal with that. Like, she's just like, "What? What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
That's
I
not
mean,
how
she
she
must.
reacts.
Do we ever know how, like, what her reaction was when when the news came out that Vader has died? No,
Um,
right? We don't. It was not portrayed in any of the series, right?
no, 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 no. It
That would have been
hasn't.
something. That would have been something to explore. I think that would be something to not, maybe not in like great depth, but like just to see
Yeah.
how she would respond when she knew that, oh yeah, like Anakin Vader has died, and then is somehow like, but he was redeemed before he died.
Yeah, well, that's the part that I think only Luke could tell Ahsoka the redemption of it. Like, I
Mhm.
could see her finding out from some other source, like that Darth Vader has been killed and
Died,
that
been
like
killed.
the
Yep.
Empire has fallen and all this stuff. Like, yes, she has learned some of that but I don't know if she cares. I think she has a similar view as Obi-Wan does, where she believes Anakin is gone at this
Mm,
point. And well, she doesn't really act like that in Rebels. She says like, "I will stay here with you," or whatever she says. She basically
mm,
acts like no matter what he says or does, she
yeah.
will still fight him to the death, basically. But then she's saved by Ezra, and so then she can't like really fulfill that promise. But like maybe she still believes Anakin's in there, but I think she kind of like gives up, kind of like Obi-Wan does. So
Mm.
Luke is the one that would have to tell her that,
What
you
happened?
know,
Yeah, what
his
happened at the
father,
end?
exactly what happened. Because all she would hear is like, the Empire has fallen, Darth Vader's dead, or the Emperor is dead, and so is Darth Vader. Like maybe she would have heard that, but she wouldn't know that he was redeemed unless either
Mm,
Anakin's Force Ghost appears to her or Luke finds her and tells her.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we do know that from Book of Boba Fett, though, that she apparently did learn from somewhere about. I think it is implied in the conversation she has with Luke, where she says, "You remind me so much of your father," or whatever she says. Like
Oh, yeah, yeah,
she's,
yeah. So much like your father.
yeah, she seems to be like thinking very fondly about Anakin in that moment. So I think
Mm,
maybe she has learned by that point, you know, that he was redeemed, but we haven't seen that conversation yet. And people were like, I think some people have been very disappointed with that. I, I, on the other hand, like, I think that that would be really great to see if it happens. Um, but it's not like something that I'm like,
yeah. You're
die,
demanding
absolutely
to see.
die.
Yeah.
But I am
Okay.
curious, like, what her relationship is with, like, how she forms that relationship with Luke, like, how they meet.
Mm,
I'm very curious about, like you were saying, like Anakin's potential involvement as a Force ghost or flashbacks that we might see in the Ahsoka show from Clone Wars potentially. But then they would have to cast a younger Ahsoka, I think, because
yeah,
she
I
was a
know.
lot shorter back then.
Yeah,
And
and a lot scrawnier. Um, yeah, that's
yeah,
true. I
and I
mean,
don't
but that's
know if
not
they
that
would
wouldn't
do
be a
that.
problem, I don't think. If
I
just
mean,
for a
I think they
flashback
could
then.
easily cast
Mm,
someone, but I just don't know if they would do that. Um, I don't know, because I don't. Maybe they'll do it for like a scene or
yeah.
two.
Or they could have done maybe they could do like Steve Rogers' trick, in the first Captain American movie. They just hire a skinny actor to play the role, and then they like sort of
Put his face.
transplant the Rosario Dawson's face onto this actor.
Yeah,
That has been done before quite successfully. So maybe that's the approach they'll go with. Who knows?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I should
Okay.
probably wrap this
Yeah.
up for my.
Mhm. Yeah. It's as always, we talk
uh,
longer than we
than
were
we
planning for.
intended, but
No, it was a pretty good discussion though. It was yeah,
yeah.
pretty
Well,
good stuff.
I apologize if I was too negative, but
No, 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 no.
I have
I
to
think
be
no.
honest.
You're entitled to your opinion. I think it's also kind of rare that we would our opinions would differ so much. I mean, it's not that we are like diametrically opposed in terms of our perception of the show, but like I do think we. It seems like I mean, which is fine.
I think I just
I
had,
think we those are like valid perspectives, and you're not. Neither of us are being like irrational, so like I think it's fine. You
yeah.
know. Yeah.
I will like I just I guess there were two things that I didn't really say that I would like to say before I get off,
Conclude.
before I say
Okay.
goodbye.
Okay.
Um One is, I just wanted to say I did really enjoy the Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru characters in this. I think the actor and
Mm,
actress that played them were both great.
yeah.
Maybe especially Uncle Owen, because he got a little bit more screen time. Like we got to
Mhm.
see him a little bit more, and I just thought he was awesome. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think that added a lot to the story and our understanding of those characters and maybe what Luke's childhood was like growing up a little bit. And so I was happy to see that. Like, I'm glad that they brought them back to do this. And that was really cool. So good job, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. Good job, writers, for including them and writing them the way that you did. And then
Hold on, quickly. Do you know Uncle Owen's actor was a different one?
from the, I thought it was the same person from the
No.
prequels.
No, different. Different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Baru was
I
the same, but
swear.
Owen's different.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, he looks a lot like the guy that was in the prequels.
No, it's a different actor. He is a
Oh,
great actor, by the
well,
way, Joel
good job.
Edgerton. He is a yeah. He didn't have much to do in the
Yeah.
show, like, but whenever he is in a scene, um, I especially like the last when he told like Obi-Wan, when he asked like Obi-Wan, like, Ben, you want to meet him, like that was a great scene.
No, I'm pretty positive it's the same guy, the same
No, I
actor
don't.
as at the end of Revenge of the Sith. There's a picture of him right here, and he looks the exact same.
Wait, hold on. There's a flashback scene in this Kenobi show, but they used that actor instead.
What?
If you go back to watch the real prequel, um sorry, not the prequel, the no, it's a it's a different actor.
Oh,
Really,
you
it's
mean
different.
the little recap at the beginning?
Yeah, they used the actor for to in that recap, it was the new actor.
In that Chi,
Yeah.
Joel Edgerton played Uncle Owen in the prequels, not in the originals, but in the end of Revenge of the Sith. There is a very short scene where Ewan McGregor delivers a baby to Beru and Uncle Owen is Joel Edgerton in that scene.
In the prequel?
In the Revenge of in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Wait, are you sure?
Yeah, they got the same two people to play, and they just lucked out that it just so happened that Joel Edgerton was the actor that George Lucas had gotten to play Uncle Owen.
Oh,
Because he
okay.
is a good actor, and they just, oh, he was, but here's the question. They go to,
Oh, okay.
yeah, no, and
I thought
he's
they cast
Owen
different.
in Attack of the Clones too.
Oh, really?
I was gonna say, like,
Oh,
I thought, like, look up prequels Uncle Owen or something.
yeah. Okay, I'm looking it up. Okay, I was wrong. I thought it was a different actor.
Well, there's a different guy, an older man that plays him New Hope, in the New Hope, but
Yeah,
obviously
no,
because he's
I didn't
older.
realize he was in the prequel.
Yeah. That, well, Baru was the same actress too, but I don't think that actress like went on to do as many or made as big of a name
Yeah.
for herself as Joel Egerton did, but like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it
Oh,
was
wow.
both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's true.
Sorry. I just
No, no,
I was
it's
like,
okay. It's okay.
I
Yeah.
swear that that is the same guy.
I
Um
okay. I just really like reading news somewhere, and I thought, okay,
yeah. Well, I think it was a
cool.
great
All right,
call of
even
the
better.
create I think it was a great call of the creators of this show to not only recast those two, but also to write them into this story and give them,
Yeah.
some stuff to work with because it was great to see them. I heard one person's review say, like, seeing them fighting, like trying to fight to save Luke makes you kind of think like you always kind of thought in A New Hope that they just were sitting ducks when the stormtroopers came and like burned their burned their homestead or whatever. But like maybe they actually went down with a fight, you know, maybe they weren't just sitting there, you know,
Hmm.
innocent,
Hmm.
you know, just killed
Yeah,
so
like a regular
easily.
civilian, just like sitting there, just to be waiting to be like have things
Yeah.
done to them.
Yeah, maybe they
Yeah,
actually had they tried to, you know, fight him off or something
yeah.
and they just
Hmm.
couldn't. But
Put up a good
um
fight. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No,
He's a
I think yeah. Okay, well, yeah. George was great. He's a great actor.
he is,
Um,
yeah. He was
yeah.
really good in this too. Yeah. And then the last thing I would say is well, I don't want to end on a bad note, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but I think that this is the thing that bothers me, like the biggest plot hole of it all is the whole like Bail Organa like sending the message to like it's just all the stuff with Leia, as great as that was, it does for me. This is what I didn't say earlier when we were talking about it affecting the canon, but it creates a big plot hole where now the Empire is very aware that even if they have no idea that Leia has any connection to Darth Vader and all of that, which they shouldn't have any idea of that, they do know that there's a connection between Bail Organa and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is a Jedi Master. So I don't really understand still at the end of this show, they didn't really wrap that they tried to close up every other hole or patch up every other hole the best they could, but that's one that they didn't really answer is like what is going to stop the Empire from now, you know, coming after Bail Organa to try to get Kenobi or also just to punish him for basically fraternizing with the enemy. And so that I will be curious to see
Yeah.
if they do answer
Okay.
that in a season
There
2 or
is one
something.
small. I don't think you'll be satisfied with this, but remember when Riva did this, because the whole thing was Riva's idea, right? He was trying to use uh, a senator's daughter to get to Kenobi, and the Great Inquisitors knew about this, so like they know um, this would work. But at the time, Riva was being like he was
Oh
telling like
yeah.
you're being reckless. Like you would even like how dare you kidnap a senator's daughter to lure Kenobi out?
Right.
And so even then they would think that you shouldn't have done this. That's you have gone too far. So but again, that doesn't if imagine a really desperate Vader. I can see why not. They would sickly like want to try again. That didn't answer that question. But
Well,
they did try to explain sort of like that even this strategy is considered too risky from the Inquisitors.
well
For a big of a Jedi as Kenobi, right? So
yes.
I think it would explain why they wouldn't do this every week, right? But it doesn't guarantee nobody will ever try this ever again. So yes, it's possible that this
No,
was not
it
the
does
last time that Leia was kidnapped until we saw her like being kidnapped again on the in the original trilogy. Yeah,
no, it
yeah.
doesn't make it still doesn't make sense. I understand all that. I can understand why the Inquisitors like didn't want to mess with him in the first
Mm,
place. But the thing
yeah.
is, Riva did kidnap his daughter and it worked. It drew Obi-Wan Kenobi out. So now they know that that is that is a so now it's confirmed. It's
Yeah.
like
It's
before
it's
they
a
didn't want
valid
to do it
approach, right?
because they didn't
Yeah.
want to they didn't want to abuse the trust of the Senate or cause the Senate to turn on them or whatever because they're still using the Senate at this time.
Mhm.
But like now they know that Bail Organa is not only friends with the enemy, but that he's also a key link to getting to drawing out a Jedi Master, which is a huge deal. So it's like I for the life of me I cannot see how that was resolved in the slightest. And then for Bale to be neglectful enough or dumb enough to even send that message in the first place is also beyond me. But that's all the negative things I'm gonna say. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be done with that.
Great. Yeah.
I
Just like
just,
do the mic drop and then just leave.
well, I hate to have these things that like, it's like too many things that bothered me is the issue with this. Is like, it maybe would have been fine if it was just one or two, but then it kept like stacking up. And then we got some really good moments where it was like, that was awesome. And then it just highlights how good the goodness of that makes me like want more of that goodness and less of the stuff that was like more bothersome, I suppose is what it is. But I do think the difference too between probably how I went into this and how you went into it is like I just had very different but also maybe very high expectations for it to be like amazing, and it was good but it wasn't like the greatest thing I've ever
Oh yeah, yeah.
seen.
Even I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say this show is amazing. But I was. It's pretty good though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
and
just,
I
I
suppose
wished
some
it
of
was.
the yeah, like I okay, we're not gonna get into this again, but I just think a lot of like the problems, like quote unquote problems per se, I don't think they're that absolute as far as problems go. Yeah.
I mean,
You can
they're
easily come with another
not,
explanation
none
like
of
as
them.
to why that the kidnapping shit was not tried very often or ever again. I think I would
I can't think of an easy explanation for that. Why wouldn't Vader immediately just go and either
I don't know because
re-kidnap or,
because that's because it's a senator's daughter though, and they didn't know that it
but
was.
he's not a
I
senator. He shouldn't even be a senator anymore at this point because he's a betrayer of the empire. Like he should be dead or something. Like they would kill him for that, for
how
treason,
but why?
because he's been proven to be linked to a Jedi master who is, the empire is actively currently hunting down and opposed to all Jedi. Like they clearly have a vendetta against the Jedi because they painted the Jedi as the bad, the the they
No, I
painted the
thought no. Hold on, hold
Jedi
on,
as
hold on,
the
hold on, hold on.
enemies.
Okay, I get it. Hold on, but hold on. I thought the only reason I thought from the Empire side they just okay, well, because we kidnapped not just anybody's daughter, but somebody important, like a daughter of some senator. So that's what drew Obi-Wan out because he's a Jedi. They just want to, that's what they do. They save people. Um, I I might have to watch it again, but I don't think there's
Oh,
anywhere in the sort that explicitly made the Empire aware that there's a special personal connection between Obi-Wan and Bail Organa's daughter.
well,
I didn't think that was revealed to anybody except Riva.
it's not so much,
Maybe not even Riva, but just like oh no Riva except Riva. Yeah, yeah. I think
it's
she's the only one with a full knowledge of like these kids are those kids are special. They are personal to Kenobi and but to others I thought they just oh well you just kidnap somebody's if you know somebody's gonna is gonna it's a savior of the world, like you maintain peace and justice, you kidnap some like top brass's daughter is gonna draw him out. I thought that was my interpretation was that was what they thought why it worked, not because they now oh yeah Leia is personal to Kenobi. Maybe not. I don't think is that like
I don't know why Vader, like, well, that actually goes back to something that was more at the beginning of the show, because what Reva says to the other Inquisitors is, or to some other people at their
yeah
base or whatever, she says like, I found a connection between Bail Organa and Obi-Wan in the archives. But that right there is an issue because there is nothing that Reva could have possibly uncovered in the archives
no
that
she said
Anakin,
she said they fought before in the war. That's all she knew. Like
No, she
Obi-Wan and
says she found a connection between them in the archives. She might
between
have
who?
said from the
O-
Clone Wars, but
Obi-Wan and Leia?
no, Obi-Wan and
Yeah.
Bail,
Yeah, yeah,
her
yeah, yeah,
Leia's
yeah, yeah,
dad.
yeah.
So then she said she was, and that's, I'm not really concerned about Leia here. I'm talking about why is Bail just left alone at this point after he's been proven to have this connection with Obi-Wan. But I take your point that Reva's the only one that knows that um she is the only one that knows about the message from Bail about Luke. And I don't even know if she knows it's from Bail. I can't remember if she could see the hologram or just hear it.
No, no, no.
But
I
like
think she's like, yeah, no, she couldn't.
she couldn't see it. So she didn't even know who it was from, but she just heard like boy Tatooine, Owen Lars or Lars Homestead or something. And anyways, she might be the only one that knows, I guess, about Obi-Wan's like particular relationship with Leia, but that's besides the point. The point is
Yeah. No,
Bail was proven
the
to
traitor
be
thing. No, but that was the Clone War though. Like that was before the regime changed, right? So like, yeah, they fought before in the Clone War, but then Empire took over, and Bail Organa didn't do anything suspicious at that point. He was just a senator. So why, if yeah,
exactly.
if you fought before with Obi-Wan, why would that make him a traitor automatically now? That was before the whole thing,
No,
before the Empire took over.
because he was, well, I guess I thought
No,
that Reva
they were
saw,
using, okay, so they used to be friends, right? So that doesn't make somebody just a traitor right away. It's just that they thought, okay, well, they were old friends. Now, if I kidnap this guy's daughter, maybe we can lure, that the Jedi out. That was it. I mean, there was no plot
but
about like
why didn't she
Organa
just
plotting
kidnap?
against
But
what?
she specifically, Reva specifically says, I found a connection between Obi-Wan and Bail Organa in the Jedi archives. She says that because she specifically chooses to kidnap Bail's daughter, not some random senator's daughter or
I know,
son
but
or
yeah, the
whatever.
connection was that they fought. Yeah, because I just saw the connection was that they fought together in the Clone War. That was the connection.
But that's the thing, is there's nothing she could have uncovered in the archives that Anakin wouldn't already know about Obi-Wan's relationships with people during the Clone Wars. So it's just like that information couldn't have
But why is that?
possibly
No, but
led
Anakin
her
didn't.
to anything
Right,
that
but Vader
Anakin wouldn't have
didn't do
already
that though. Like,
tried.
but Vader didn't. Maybe it was just too risky. I mean, maybe it's because you don't kidnap some senator's daughter to lure somebody that's not, you don't even know is alive or dead. That's why nobody. That's what not is not the first thing Empire did to try to get Obi-Wan, is because you just don't do that. That's like too much political risk, stake right there. And Riva was reckless because she was really desperate at, like, okay, I'm gonna ascend the rank, and so I'm gonna get Obi-Wan. So she was reckless enough to find out anything. And then she found
Okay.
out, oh, this guy, this senator, she used to know Obi-Wan. They were used to be good pals. I'm gonna kidnap his daughter, and to try to, I can lure Obi-Wan out. And she
Yeah.
succeeded. And she was reprimanded for that because that was too risky of a move. So again, this doesn't guarantee nobody will ever try that ever again, right? Because it worked. But I don't think I don't think that means that, okay, from this point on, every week there's going to be a kidnap attempt to Leia, because you know
Well,
yeah, because
they didn't. I mean, I don't know how they wouldn't jump to that conclusion that there is communication between Bail and Obi-Wan, because Bail didn't want to advertise that his daughter was kidnapped. He specifically
yeah,
called Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan actually does show up. It's confirmed by not only Reva but like a million other people with the Empire and Darth Vader himself that like, oh, Obi-Wan is showing up to save this girl. Like, they but
Yeah,
that this
yeah,
girl was not
but that's
advertised.
the
Like, it's not like
thing.
everybody in the public knew that this senator's daughter was kidnapped, because Bale specifically didn't want to he didn't want to spread the word, because he was like, we don't know who could be involved. It could be anybody. Nobody knows who she is except for you, Obi-Wan. And so I just think that it's very obvious. It would have been very obvious to the Empire that there was communication between Bale and Obi-Wan, that Bale called him for help. Obi-Wan showed up. So then it's like that, all of that is evident. And so then now it's just like knowledge that's out there to know.
I don't think I would agree. I don't think it's, when it's like, just think of like, like you, yeah, when like senators are
How
involved,
would
just
Obi-Wan show up to rescue some random senator's daughter that he fought with back in the Clone Wars if no one knew that the daughter was even kidnapped? Because except for her parents. How would
yeah,
he then respond? Like, there has to be communication between them.
it
And
could
I
be
think that,
it could be from Riva though. Like the whole point of her, I mean, Riva didn't want to keep this secret, right? Like she was not, oh, I'm just going to do this without anybody knowing it. I mean, she just did it, and then the Empire found out about it. It doesn't, it's not like that can just directly link a dot between like Organa and Obi-Wan. I mean, yes, sure. I mean, they would. I mean, if I were the Empire people, I would probably be suspecting it. But
yeah,
that doesn't like criminalize like I I don't think it
I
makes
don't
sense for them to like label Organa after the incident as a traitor and arrest him right away and like grab his daughter as a bait for Obi-Wan from now on. It, I really don't think that makes sense though. Maybe they would have the suspicion about, oh, maybe Organa is not as obedient or as loyal as he appears to be, and they might keep a close watch on him from now on. But I don't know. Like from my understanding of the whole situation, I just I
yeah,
don't see that to be a problem, really.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that Organa will appear like, innocent to anyone. I mean, no. But does that mean
They don't have
that
enough proof or
kidnapping
something.
is going to be a regular practice now? Kidnapping is going to be a regular, I don't know. I don't think so. I just don't think so. But
I don't
again,
know.
that doesn't prevent anybody secretly from like, okay, well, if we are really desperate, maybe we'll do that again.
Or like
If
bounty hunters that are trying to get at like Kenobi, and they know that if
yeah,
they can,
yeah, exactly.
but
Maybe not Empire like officially, but if they put like a big bounty on Obi-Wan's head, then who knows? Cat
yeah,
Bane might show up and try to kidnap
yeah.
Leia just to get at him. Who
I
knows?
don't like, or Leia does show up in Rebels at one point. I can't remember the exact
I think
circumstances, but I don't,
I didn't watch the episode.
I can't remember if she was kidnapped or if she was just somehow involved. I can't remember, but it might have been a kidnapping. I don't know. She went on some adventures in her younger years, in other words. But I
Yeah, but I really hope there's no, because I think kidnap. Yeah, even one more time would be a little too old for me.
I
I
also
don't think they
like,
would do it again.
I'm very uncomfortable with the fact that Reva has all of this information, and
I
Obi-Wan
know.
just lets her go and seems to like trust her now, when she's literally tried to kill Luke Skywalker, the one
Yeah, like five
guy
minutes
that,
ago.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that made no
I
sense.
know.
But here's the thing, Chi, I was thinking about this. I was thinking that makes no sense that Obi-Wan just let her go. She knows way too much.
Hmm.
And also that Vader, didn't like actually just slice her head off. Because in that moment, like, I thought to myself, like, this is literally what I thought as I was watching when Vader, during the Vader Reva fight at the end. I really thought he was gonna just slice her head off, like how he does with
Hmm.
Count Dooku. And then I watched like some people's reaction, and people were like, "Is he gonna do her like Count Dooku?" And I was like, "That's exactly what I
No,
thought."
no. Or like
And
the
then,
video game, like he also killed Inquisitor, like the
oh,
second
really?
sister.
Yeah, just
He
like,
he didn't
oh,
like stab it through the body. He was just like the head didn't come off clean, but it was like she was, like
oh
there was like
God,
wound to the neck and something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
anyways, but I was
yeah,
thinking
I agree with you. I think yeah.
maybe that's something for season 2 where Reva, you know, maybe there's more to her character. Maybe she does betray on purpose or accidentally
Yeah.
some of that information and it puts
Yeah.
Luke in danger and then Obi-Wan has to like defend Luke this time or I don't know, it could
Yeah.
be anything
Yeah.
because now
Could be.
she knows about Luke. She knows where he lives. She knows Anakin is Darth Vader. She seems to have put together that Luke is somehow very important to Darth Vader and
Mm,
potentially knows that he's his son, even though I'm still not really buying that she was able to put that together. But whatever, that's what she seems to believe. Um, but you know what else I thought would be fascinating if like a character like Reva had found out about that Darth Vader had children or a son or something, and then that person like might have been a victim of like Darth Vader's evil in some way and goes after Luke or Leia thinking that they're sparing the world from like that because maybe they're worried that Luke
mm,
or Leia is going to turn out like Darth Vader,
yeah.
you know? Like couldn't
Yeah.
you see that have been an intriguing like plotline too, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to shut up. This I'm done. This was a good show in the sense that it's obviously causing me to think a lot about a lot of things and
Yeah.
it's I've delved into each and every episode like wholeheartedly, like
Yeah.
loving every minute of it, even the parts that I hated. Like I still like spent a lot of time like thinking about it, thinking about the story, thinking about how this plays into other things, and that's a lot of fun to do. So I
Mm,
appreciate that the show for that. I will always be grateful to this show and the show's creators for bringing back Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen as a prequels kid. That means a lot and is really cool to see on screen again. And Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam
yeah.
Neeson coming
Yeah.
back too.
Yeah.
Like you
We
can't
haven't even talked about
understate that.
the hello there line. That was great too.
I can't believe that they actually did that. It was almost like at that point I was just like, "Oh my god, I can't
Couldn't
believe
do it.
I
Oh
said."
yes. I know. You
I
like yeah.
laughed. I laughed though. There were some like in
I
a good
know. Me
way,
too.
not in a bad way, in a
No,
good
no, I
way.
know. Me too.
It's
Me
just
too.
like
Yeah.
there were some moments at the end of that finale that I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" Like even when Qui Gon starts talking and it's just Liam Neeson's voice, I was just like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, I
He
know. That's
couldn't be
great.
more Liam Neeson right now. Like the one podcast I listened to, shout out to Rebel Force Radio. The one host does like a very good imitation of Liam Neeson's
Liam
voice.
Neeson.
And when Liam Neeson actually started talking in this show, all I could think about was that impression that this guy does. And it was like exactly the same as the
Yeah.
impression. So it was just perfect, like perfect Qui-Gon, Liam Neeson, and that was cool to see. So that's my
Yeah.
final thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I thought the show was pretty good, but I think to be fair, there's a lot of I think I think okay, I think it's fair to say that this is a show with quite a few really truly great moments. But whether
Mhm.
this show is a good show, I think it's up to people. I think some people think it's great, some people think it's meh, you know. Yeah, so I think it's fine. Like, for me, I really enjoyed it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And we'll see if it like stands the test of time too, if it's like a show that you find yourself like revisiting or rewatching or maybe just rewatching certain episodes. I've already spent time like I loved going back on YouTube and rewatching some of the lightsaber um scenes that were like, the Vader Obi-Wan scenes were spliced up with they were, there was other stuff going on in the story, but there's
oh
some on
yeah,
YouTube where they just have it continuous. They've set it to the like different like John Williams soundtracks and stuff like that, which I think sounds really cool. I don't know, like even the flashback one, that was in the show as you watch it, it was broken up by other stuff going on in the story. But I really enjoyed going back and watching that in one continuous, thing. People have put that together on YouTube and stuff.
Oh yeah,
So
I need to
that's
watch that too.
really, yeah, it's really cool to go back and look at those things. I actually wish that they actually had just filmed at least one of those continuously where it was just on them the whole time. But
Mhm.
maybe that would have been a little bit too much like um, Revenge of the Sith, and you can't rival that. So why even try? Like where
Yeah,
all the focus is on Obi-Wan and Vader, or Obi-Wan and Anakin, or whatever. Like that's a lot to put a lot of pressure on those two characters doing that fight sequence. Like that's a really hard thing to nail, a continuous thing
yeah,
like that. So I can
yeah.
understand why they didn't do it, but it is fun to go back and watch them all continuous on YouTube, because then you can get a better idea of the whole like
Mm,
the fight that happens. So sorry,
yeah,
I keep
yeah.
blabbering on about more stuff. So
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, I think they probably did that just to avoid being too similar to the Revenge of Sith. I think that's probably what happens.
maybe, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what future things hold too? So we
Yeah,
got
I
more
know.
to look forward
I
to.
do, I do. Yeah, I do hope we get a season two. I didn't think I wanted it,
I
but
agree. Yeah,
now I'm like open. I'm at least open to it.
yeah,
I think I'm my where I'm standing right now is that I'm totally fine if we don't get a season two ever.
yeah,
But
yeah. I agree.
I'm not also not gonna complain if we do get a season two.
Yeah.
I think um yeah, I think on me I think it's just great seeing you and McGregor playing Obi-Wan.
Hmm.
I think that did a lot for me. That made me able to ignore a lot of the some of the problems, like minor problems. I could just
Hmm.
put it aside and still enjoy the show because he's done such a great job.
I'm yawning. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Okay,
But
we're
I agree with everything you said, G. Well, maybe not everything throughout this whole conversation, but I
I know.
agree with you and McGregor was great. And I feel similarly that I wasn't expecting a season two for a while. I thought I didn't want a season two. Now I think I would like a season two, but only if they have the story for it. I don't want them to force
Mhm.
it. I only want it if there's a good story, good team in place to make it, and everybody involved is like wanting to do it, because I don't want some sort of half-assed thing that they're doing just to make money. No, thank you. I'd rather you just make a whole different
Mhm.
show with brand new characters. Like, don't
Yeah.
mess up these characters that we already love. So, um,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
that, that's one thing. As many of the problems that I had with the show, I think that they did do a good job of portraying the characters really well for them. I mean, other than we talked about the newer characters, some of them we didn't get quite as much as maybe we would have liked to see with some of the newer characters. But I would say that they honored Obi-Wan, they honored Darth Vader and Anakin in this show. They honored Princess Leia in this show, Bail Organa, Owen and Beru. All these legacy characters, they really did a good job of. I don't feel like they betrayed the character the way that you feel a little bit that they did with Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least they didn't do that.
They didn't,
That's
no, I
that's
don't
very
think
true.
they even came close to doing that with
No,
any of these
no, not at
characters.
all.
So,
Not at all.
and that
I
is
think that
one thing.
they, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
that
will
is
not
something
complain
that we
about
should
that.
applaud them for is that they really I think that they whatever problem you might have, I think they stay true to every character involved. Um,
For the
yeah, so
most part. Yeah.
I think that that was good.
Yeah.
That was very good. Yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
cool.
Well, on that
All right.
note,
Well, good talk. That was a great discussion.
yeah. Should have known we were going to go on for a while on this one.
I can't say I'm surprised, but it is what it is. Yeah. So, well, I hope you've enjoyed our discussion so far, and let us know whatever opinions you have on the show, good or bad. We appreciate them. And yeah, so tune in next time. I think we might be talking about maybe Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, I think that's what I was
That
going
would
to
be good.
suggest. That would be
Okay.
good.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thank
Right.
you everyone for listening, especially if you made it this far. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and leave us a comment, as Chi said. So, all right.
Cool. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.